What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
6AC. Chapter 97. I just want to beat you to death, or be beaten to death by you. Advertise here. Facing him, Ai did not take action directly, but opened the space crack in front of him. Bully rushed to Ai in an instant, but his body was full at this time. What are you doing, Bully? Kill him. Don't stop. Bull watched from behind as Bully's movements slowed down. As if letting go of water and not wanting to take action, he shouted hurriedly. But what he didn't know was that it wasn't that Bully didn't want to rush forward. But he can't do it. Ai's 4 weeks of time are locked. At this moment, Ai directly started the control of time, pausing the time around him indefinitely. The location is not big, only within 10 meters of the surrounding area. Bully happened to rush into this range, so his speed stopped. Ai looked up at the other party and was a little surprised. Bully was still able to move when his time was paused. Although it is very slow, at this speed, it may take 10 minutes to move a step. But indeed, he moved. Worthy of being the first king of Asgard. He was the first god king. And after countless years of improvement in this soul castle, I have continuously grown in strength and reached this point. It is no exaggeration to say that Ai would definitely have been alive if Bu Li had lived until now. Maybe when you control your own power and can control your strength in a sober state. Maybe he is the first person in the 9 realms to reach the multi-universe level. What a pity. Ai really wants to have a good fight with such an existence. Unfortunately, he feels that the other party should be treated with dignity. Moreover, he also wanted the opponent to wake up and fight, which would be more interesting. His hands opened the space in front of him, and a crack appeared directly. This is Ai's storage space. Since learning magic. This trick is really delicious. Now, except for most of the daily items, such as some food. There is another thing, infinite gems. Power gem, mind gem, space gem are all here. Time gem and Eye of Agamotto were originally there, but they were not returned to the Ancient One. As soon as I reached out and held the mind gem in my hand. Walking towards Bully step by step. What are you up to? Bull, who was unaffected from a distance, saw this scene and had no idea why, but he had a bad feeling in his heart. He always felt that something extremely scary might happen to him next. I think you have no father's love, or there is too little father's love, so I will help you find it. Ai said that this has already come to Bu Li. Looking at this tall giant with wounds everywhere on his body, he shook his head helplessly. What a pity, if I had survived. If he hadn't been killed by Bull's sneak attack, he would have been a very powerful man. You should even be able to have a good time with yourself. The power circulates, and the mind gem in the hand blooms with yellow light. The sudden light covers everything, and no light can surpass it. Infinite gems. Bull was not a country bumpkin. He recognized these things at first sight. Then he was stunned. What is Ai going to do? Binocular tightening. Infinite gems. Yellow. This is. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Stop it. Some guessed his move. Bull kept shouting. I wanted to rush forward to stop him, but it was already too late. Ai controlled the gem and gently clicked it, and the yellow light covered Bu Li's body. The next second, the other party did not continue to rush forward, but stood quietly in place. Looking at Ai blankly. The violence and madness in his eyes slowly receded. Little by little, humane sensibility was revealed. Finally, he looked at Ai in front of him in a daze. His memory was restored, and his emotions slowly returned to his mind. He remembered that his name was Bully. He is the first creature of Asgard. He was also the first god king. He led Asgard to continuously create and update. Farm with your people and become strong at the same time. Then marry a wife and have children. His eyes began to tighten, and his face began to become distorted. His own son killed himself at a banquet. Bull used his divine power to back up his own space when he drank too much, making him unable to move. Then he stabbed himself in the heart with the god-killing dagger he gave him, killing him. Then what? Later, his soul left his body, but was locked and controlled by the other party. He was taken to the soul castle and imprisoned by the other party. I am tortured every day and constantly stimulate myself. I can't think about it anymore. Bully's head was filled with anger and hatred. Bull. Blixen. You don't deserve to be my son. You don't deserve the Blixen name. Bully's full name is Bully, with no other characters. This is the name he gave himself when he woke up. As for his descendants, he used his own name as a surname and gave them full names. Pool Blixen, Odin Blixen. But the son who was given the surname by himself actually killed the person who gave him the surname. How ridiculous. Hatred almost suppressed all of Bu Li's reason. He had just escaped from his unconscious animal nature, but fell into madness again. Ai is not surprised. Anyone who has gone through this would not be able to bear it. Especially when I thought I would be free after death, I found out that I had been tortured for thousands of years before I woke up. I have to say that Ai feels a little sorry for him now. The power of mind gem activates again. This time he restored the other party's sanity a little, so that he would not be so irritable now. I owe you what I owe you, and Congress will pay it back. Huge amounts of Bu Li looked at Ai, knowing that the other party had saved him. After saying that, he turned around and walked towards Bull. It's over. Bull was panicked when he saw Bully approaching. Now he was in big trouble. His trump card suddenly becomes his enemy. What should I do? Wait online, it's quite urgent. Bull, it's time for you to atone for your sins. Ai still found this scene quite interesting. In an instant, he suddenly turned around and sat down at one of the surrounding stone tables, picked up a bottle of wine and started drinking. Not to mention, Soul Castle has quite a lot of supplies, including all kinds of food, and the fruits are also very fresh. It's really a good place. Hearing the shivering sound next to him, Ai turned around and saw Asgard's Soul Castle warriors moving back little by little. A group of people were obviously very afraid of Ai, and they didn't dare to move when his gaze swept across them. Ai flashed a qigong bullet and killed them all. It was quiet now. Some people eat, some drink, and some watch movies. This is really comfortable. Buli's movements are obviously much faster than Bull's. He rushed to Bull's side in almost a flash and started a violent bombardment. Bull, who was unscrupulous just now and thought he had a chance to win, no longer had the heart to resist. I can only resist while turning around and running away. But his speed was like that of a child in front of Bully, completely useless. Without the heart to fight, great strength is useless. When Ai saw Bull's actions, he shook his head and disdained to speak. Ever since Bully regained his consciousness, Bull, the son, has lost the desire to fight. All that's left is fear. Bully's prestige was so exaggerated in his mind that he couldn't muster the will to resist. Just now Ai beat Bull like a sandbag. Now it's his father who takes action. Bull, who is more than 4 meters tall, can be considered a quite tall giant. But in front of Bully's height of 10 meters, he is like a chicken, doing whatever he wants. In terms of speed, Bull can't match it. The strength is not comparable, even if the divine power is not as good as the opponent. After all, he was the first king of Asgard and the first Aesir. He built Asgard. This guy's bloodline is the purest among all Asgardians. Ai is happy to watch the show. Looking at Bull, who was being hammered, he was out of breath. He was afraid that he would be hammered to death in a moment, and he paid even more attention to it with interest. After beating Thor, he came back after being resurrected. After killing him again, Odin came out to press the battle again. Although he didn't take action, a bull appeared. I'll hit my son, but I can't hit my grandpa. Grandpa couldn't beat me just now, so he even called Grandpa out. Now, isn't it interesting to let Grandpa beat Grandpa Thor? Bully, you forced me. After Bull was knocked away again, his body was already covered with colors. There was nothing good about him, not to mention the blood, which was scattered in the sky like raindrops. The most important thing is that his body is almost torn apart. As a soul in the Soul Castle, his body is not a purely real existence. To put it bluntly, they are still souls, but the specialness of Soul Castle gives them a false body. Now his limbs are covered with numerous wounds, and traces of his soul can even be seen at the broken locations. If this continues, Bull was the first guy to have his soul ripped off in the Soul Castle. The dead can be resurrected. But that's not necessarily the case if the soul is torn apart. Bull, who knew that he might be wiped out if he continued like this, didn't want to hide his stupidity. Even if I risk my life, I have to take Bu Li away. Call daddy, you unfilial son. When Bu Li heard the other party calling him by his name, his anger rose. The hair on his head stood up instantly, and the powerful force made his aura surge again. Go to hell. Boar ignored it completely. Instead, he shouted loudly and slammed his hands on the ground. The blood he shed earlier sank into the floor of the hall. Even the soul in his body began to flow bit by bit, and then was transported inside. Oh, here comes the big move. Ai looked at this scene in surprise. When fighting him just now, Bull didn't use this move. Is this a hiding method? As the master of Soul Castle, I am the king here. Bull's face was distorted and covered with blood. He looked like he still had the coolness and magnanimity of the previous king of Asgard. He is more like an evil ghost crawling out of hell. Disgusting, brutal and terrifying. Along with his voice, a powerful force in Soul Castle completely emerged. Countless pressure pressed down from the air, instantly pressing Buli's body to the spot, unable to move. Soul Castle is under my control, why do you think I stay here? Ha 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 ha. The terrifying Bull roared at the top of his lungs, seemingly grasping the overall situation. Here, I am the king. After shouting, Bull's strength increased again, and the blood flowed from his body faster. And his spirit. The soul also begins to tear apart and accelerates. If it continues like this, it may not take long. Bu Li wasn't dead, but he died first. But he is still strong and increasing his strength. The pressure from Soul Castle keeps pouring into Bully. I thought I would just rely on such pressure to immobilize Bully, and then meditate to kill him. Ai found that he did not do this. Instead, continue to increase your strength. Then I understood what he was thinking. A strange energy appeared in the Soul Castle, and then seemed to turn into countless chains, binding Bully. The powerful force dragged Bully around. It was his soul that was torn apart. Ah, the severe pain made Bully roar in pain. How can the pain from the soul be so easy to bear? But Ai ignored it and continued watching the show. I don't care about other people's family feuds. Die, die. Bull, whose soul is constantly splitting, was extremely excited when he saw this scene. If he continues like this, it won't take long. How come? Suddenly, Bull's face froze. He actually couldn't pull it anymore. Bully, who lowered his head, roared like a beast. The intensifying pain from his soul did not make him collapse, but made him even more angry. The soul castle force that was tearing him apart actually stopped and could no longer pull. Bully called his son's name, then slowly raised his head. A pair of red eyes were full of hatred, almost eating Bull alive. Don't forget, I am the king of Asgard. I am the ancestor. After saying that, Bully actually braved the pressure and flew into the air. The chain that tied him was dragged by him little by little. Those torn souls slowly returned to his body. Soul Castle, Asgard. The power of all bloodlines comes from me. As soon as he finished speaking, Bully's powerful strength showed up again, and he forcefully pulled back all the chains. The next second, the other end of the chain broke. The chains turned into his weapons and wrapped directly around Bu Li's body. It didn't stick to his body, but floated slightly, like a weapon from the past. If it is red Wang Zhao is good, it will look similar to Neja's Huntian Ling. It can also be considered that it is similar to the nebula chain in Saint Seiya. After he finished this action, Bull was shocked, and then the breath slowly dissipated. Bull's breath was almost extinguished as he knelt on the ground. The soul is damaged, and the control of the soul castle is completely lost. At the moment, Bull is too defeated. Father, do not kill me. The other party has snatched control of the soul castle, and he, the original owner, can no longer do whatever he wants in the soul castle. The soul is broken, the power is dissipated, the control is taken away. Now he is just a piece of fish, to be used by Bully Mo at will. All he could do was beg for mercy. You don't deserve Bully's last name. When he walked up to Bull, Bully showed no mercy. As soon as he finished speaking, the chains wrapped around Bull's body and squeezed him. In an instant, the body dissipated, and the soul was absorbed by the chain, turning into nothingness. Next, Bully's eyes turned to Ai Li. He knew that it was the other person who restored his will. Without him, I would definitely become a slave to my son. Even after hundreds of millions of years passed, he would never be able to wake up or take revenge. From this point of view, Ai Li is his benefactor, and the kind of great favor. I already know what happened. Change. Your attack on Asgard was indeed inappropriate, but a strong man does not need any reason. As the king of Asgard, I also killed countless people from other planets. There is no right or wrong, only strength. What do you want me to do for you? As long as I can do it, I can promise you. Bu Li had nothing to offer, so he could only do things for him. I think. Ai Li stood up and floated into the hall, standing face to face with Bu Li. Then he smiled slightly and showed interest. Beat to death by you, or beat you to death. Chapter 98. Bully's death and the destruction of Soul Castle, thanks to the 18,178 monthly vote. Advertise here. Bu Li was stunned, wondering if he heard something wrong. It took a few seconds to realize that the other party was not joking, and that he had heard correctly. Ha 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 ha, I see. Do you want to fight? Your existence reminds me of a race I met at that time. They also like fighting the most. It turns out that fighting can make you excited, and fighting can make you happy. Bring it on. Bu Li laughed loudly after understanding Ai Li's intention. In the past, there were countless races in the universe that liked to fight. He has also seen people pursuing zodiac signs for the sake of fighting. A person with a personality like Ai Li cannot be a weakling. Only in this way can we become the strongest existence. I, Bully, the first ancestor of Asgard, challenge you. Ai Li, please give me some advice. Ai Li stood opposite and said, cupping his hands. Bu Li was startled when he saw Ai Li's hand. Then some people imitated his movements in a weird way, and also raised their hands. He smiled awkwardly and spoke. I hope I can play well enough to make you happy. Boom. Bang bang bang. I'm going to increase my strength, Bully. Come on. I'm going to show my true strength. Ha ha ha, I haven't played so happily in so many years. Ai Li, it would be great if you could appear 9,000 years ago. Bang. Rumble. What was different 9,000 years ago? Ha ha ha, the universe at that time was not like it is now. Each camp has stabilized. The universe at that time was in chaos. Boom. Soul Castle trembled during the battle between the two. The power emanating from it makes Soul Castle unable to bear it at all. 680. Violent power leaked from it. After it was passed to the outside, everyone felt the invisible pressure. Falling to their knees is the only thing they can do. Hearing the sounds coming from the palace, everyone is curious about the identity of these two voices. One person they knew was Ai Li. What about the other one? And they are obviously enemies, right? Why did we have so much fun talking after the fight? This power is too powerful. Compared with the battle between these two people, the battle between Thor and Ai Li just now is completely meaningless. Who is it? Odin frowned and looked at Soul Castle. He thought it was his father Bull who was fighting. But there was something wrong with that voice. It wasn't Bull at all. Who could it be? Is there anyone more powerful than his father in Soul Castle? And what about his father? Where did it go again? Odin really wanted to go up and see what was going on. DJ. He was a little timid. The power conveyed there is a bit too exaggerated. Only then did he realize how terrifying Ai Li's strength was. Why is his divine power so powerful? Has he really become a god? Odin doesn't understand why humans' divine power can be so powerful. The other party started to step into this threshold through the divine power he obtained. He, the king of Asgard, The divine power Odin possesses comes from two sources. 1. It comes from one's own bloodline, inherited from the Aesir clan, the first generation of Asgard's god kings and the first ancestors. This power allows him to control the divine power of Asgard. Extremely powerful, and basically no need to practice. It can even become stronger with age. As long as his body and will can endure it, he can break through to the multi-universe level. It's a pity that he can't bear it. Therefore, he can only enter the sleep period to dispel the rising power in his body. The second one is the world tree. The power of rules condensed on the world tree. It also became the source of his divine power. This divine power is one level higher than the power of your own bloodline. As long as you pay enough, World Tree will give you more. Therefore, the talents of World Tree and Aesir Protoss are the focus of Asgard. As for that planet, it doesn't matter. Because of this, Ragnarok of Asgard was able to experience it several times. Then slowly wake up again in another place and become a new Asgard. Counting everything, still don't know why Aili has such great powers. Where did it come from? Are you born with it? The premise is that Aili is the legendary resurrection of the gods. But if a god is resurrected and has such powerful divine power in such a short period of time, then what level of god is it? What about the four major gods? Once that kind of being dies, everyone in the universe will be able to discover it, let alone his god King Odin. Could it be Earth? Odin looked at his feet. He knew that there was a latitude in the earth where Mephisto was hidden. Gaia, god of the earth. He didn't dare to trouble the other party, because there was still a gap between Mephisto and Mephisto. Possible. There is this possibility. Odin himself is on Earth. He doesn't dare to bet whether Gaia will take action if he takes action against Aili. Even if you can't beat yourself, you have to finish the game. So he could only shrink back to this ceremony. It's all the Ancient One's fault, he was the one who stopped me. Odin thought of this and turned to glare at the Ancient One. You go ahead and fight if you can, I won't stop you. Ancient One saw his eyes and sarcastically said. Who doesn't know what the other person is thinking? The monster that can't poop is praying that gravity is not as strong as Asgard's. This battle lasted for a long time. This is very painful for the citizens below. The powerful force made them unable to move at all. All prostrate on the ground. Some were kneeling there to pray, and some were just lying on the ground. I have no choice, I can't walk or even stand up. It's not an option to go on like this without eating or drinking. Fortunately, Tony Stark discovered this and controlled JARVIS to release all his inventory of armors. Then under the action of the armor itself, everyone who can be sent out of New York will be sent out. It's too close to the center right below the Soul Castle, so give them some food. 7 days later, BCEG. At the top of the Stark building, everyone looked up at the Soul Castle. The momentum of the battle is getting weaker and weaker. The voices of one of them started to grow deeper, and they were still waiting for the results. Kingpin and a group of his men also returned from Washington. After learning about the situation here, they looked forward to it with worry. 2.5 weeks have passed. Finally the fighting stopped and all the sounds were silenced. The strong pressure also disappeared, and there was a dead silence in the Soul Castle. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the top, wanting to see the figure immediately. This also concerns the future of the Earth. Out. Yes, Aili. I knew he wouldn't lose. Who is that other person? I don't know. If he didn't show up, he might be dead, right? But when I heard the sounds they made when fighting, they didn't seem to be enemies. I don't know. I have to ask Aili in person. Aili walked out of the Soul Castle step by step, her breathing calming down. He didn't know how long he had been inside, but it was certainly not short. This battle was very satisfying. The combat effectiveness of Aili and the opponent has always been maintained at the same level. Without any exaggeration, Bully is the most powerful being he has ever seen, even more terrifying than Mephisto. As the first royal family of Asgard, he is worthy of his height of 10 meters. Although he is considered a giant, his power is very terrifying, and his physical strength alone has surpassed all. In other respects, the strength of the soul and spiritual body is also very exaggerated. Such a long period of high-intensity fighting has never stopped or rested. But he stood firm and kept resisting without falling into any disadvantage. Not to mention the opponent's divine power, and the increased power of the Soul Castle after just gaining control of the Soul Castle. That's right, at the end of the battle, Bully harnessed the power of the Soul Castle. Without him, I'm afraid we would have been defeated several days in advance. But it's so cruel. In order to strengthen my own strength, I sacrificed so many souls in the Soul Castle. Aili couldn't help but smile when she thought of this. In order to increase the strength, the battle with Aili becomes more intense. Bully directly sacrificed the souls in the Soul Castle, and then turned them into his own strength. As a result, his strength skyrocketed again. I tried to find the upper limit of Aili using this method, but unfortunately I still didn't find it. Even if Aili said, I'm serious. But he didn't believe it at all, because the confidence Aili showed was not without holding back. I will do what I promised you. There is indeed no need for this Soul Castle to exist. Bully is dead. It can be said that he was killed by Aili. It can also be said that the whole battle has made him exceed the upper limit and cannot survive. At the last moment, the other party seemed to have touched the edge of the multi-universe level. Before he died, he muttered, Infinity. Infinity is one of the 4 gods. Besides him, there are also eternity, annihilation, and death. Some people think that Planet Devourer is also one, and should be one of the 5 gods. But in fact, Uncle Tun's origin is a little more special, and he should be listed in another category. And Infinity is mysterious. Perhaps he was summoned, but after pronouncing the name of Infinity, he died completely and his soul dissipated. Before stopping, the two also had a conversation during the battle. In addition to meeting Ai Li's combat requirements, Bu Li also gave him something. These are some small gifts. I just hope that Ai Li will not massacre all of Asgard, but leave a kindling. In response, Ai Li neither agreed nor refused, remaining silent. Bu Li didn't force it, and never mentioned it again after saying it. Wildfire, in spring. Cutting the weeds without removing the roots. This is a concept of Ai Li. In the Marvel universe, everything is possible. He doesn't want to gamble on giving Asgard a chance to spark fire. Will the other party cause any mess? Soul Castle, that's it. Ai Li walked outside the door of Soul Castle and turned to look at the door of Soul Castle. The body retreated backwards, and after drifting a little distance, suddenly a Qigong wave appeared in his hand and shot towards Soul Castle. Ai Li. Below, Odin was shocked when he saw Ai Li's action, but he couldn't hold back from taking action. If we don't take action, Asgard's base will be gone. Jumping out directly, not even paying attention to Ancient One's magic, he forcibly used the Eternal Spear to disconnect the opponent's magic cage. Flying towards the Soul Castle, where Ai Li is. Chapter 99 Odin has no intention to fight, Asgard escapes. Advertise here. Ai Li. Odin roared angrily and attacked directly. He knew that any action he took could not be hidden from the people present. Angry shouts can increase his momentum, overwhelmingly wanting to directly intimidate the enemy from this level. Ai Li turned around and saw the attacking Odin and smiled disdainfully. Does this guy really think he is his opponent now? If you don't hide well, how dare you take action? Die. All the strength in his body was used by Odin. The clouds in the surrounding sky were completely disturbed. The clouds began to stir like spinning marshmallows, and began to move downwards under his momentum. The divine power condensed on the eternal spear absorbs everything. A little bit of cold light comes out first. On the tip of the spear, powerful divine power exploded instantly with the absorbed power. Interesting. Ai Li couldn't help but his eyes lit up after seeing his attack. This method feels a bit like a god king. Compared with his fighting method, Thor is extremely weak. Kill. Odin shouted loudly. After the energy from the spear tip swept out, the whole person also came from behind. Qigong wave. Ai Li raised one hand towards the opponent's attack, and the power of the Qigong wave hit it, trying to block it forcefully. The two collide. Ai Li stood there without moving at all, blocking it completely with one hand. And his power is still increasing. The Qigong wave's offensive was moving towards Odin little by little. And Odin is not to be outdone, he doesn't care at all. Ai Li's Qigong wave surged forward, but it was forced back by such force. The attacks of the two people converged together, and a powerful explosion was generated in the middle. Huge amounts of energy overflowed, making countless people unable to even look directly at them. Only a few people could squint and observe. Isn't it his full strength? How strong is Ai Li? Gwen and the others were a little surprised when they saw this scene. Tony put on the battle armor, and the projection scan on his eyes had removed the flash. This allowed him to see what happened inside, and after relaying it to everyone. Let's focus on Ai Li. Until now, he has always been a one-handed opponent. On Odin's side, he was holding the eternal spear with both hands. Father. Loki looked at this picture blankly. Above the sky, up and down, Ai Li stood in the clouds like a god, his eyes full of arrogance. He slightly lowered his head and looked at the existence below. One hand stretched out, and energy attacks shot out from his hand. It seems that the king who controls everything in the world is punishing his people. And below, Father God Odin charged upwards desperately. He held the gun with both hands and pushed it hard, his face full of unwillingness to try his best. The palm holding the eternal spear has begun to show blood, but it still doesn't let go. This scene deeply hurts Loki's heart. Because this picture had appeared in his imagination and in the hearts of everyone in Asgard. The difference is that in the picture they imagined, God King Odin is the figure in the sky. Definitely not the rebels below now. If this continues, this universe will no longer be able to support him. Ai Li, your limit is coming soon. The Ancient One watched the battle between Odin and Ai Li and sighed helplessly. The universe has its limits. When the strength exceeds the level single universe level, that is, it transcends the priest level. After that, the multi-universe level means that the other party can leave this universe. It is not a parallel universe based on the timeline, but a truly independent parallel universe. And at this point, everything will undergo huge amounts of changes. If an enemy you accidentally encounter is no longer Odin's level, those are all existences that can dispel a universe. The pace of progress is too fast. There was a hint of worry in Ancient One's eyes. If this continues, can you maintain your original intention? Or, what she fears most is not that Ai Li is not strong enough, but that something will go wrong if she becomes too strong. If the opponent improves too quickly, the result will be an unstable mentality that can easily collapse. Once you encounter a stronger existence, if you can't defeat it, you can't help but think of ways to improve. Until then, Dormammu is an example. A magician tried every means to become stronger and seize the dark dimension, and finally ended up like this. He is neither human nor ghost. She worries that Ai Li will do the same. Sleipnir. Odin, who was carrying Ai Li away, suddenly murmured in a low voice after roaring. In midair, an 8-legged horse flew instantly, like a stream of light across the sky. When he rushed to Odin's side, there was a tear in the 8-legged horse's eyes. Then, with the feeling of death, he rushed directly to Odin, where the eternal spear shot out the energy star. Odin also disappeared from the spot in an instant. Ai Li saw this scene from high altitude and frowned, not understanding what the other party was going to do. Let Sleipnir carry it. Odin, you disappoint me so much. At this moment, Ai Li yelled angrily with a somewhat ugly look on his face. Turn out to be, when Sleipnir was holding the eternal spear, he actually left his position. Sleipnir transformed into a stream of light and attacked with energy. Its existence is very special. As Odin's mount, its strength is not weak, but it is not as powerful as it is on the stage. But there is a strange power that can dilute Ai Li's attack. Just like that, bit by bit, Ai Li's attack approached. The price is that Sleipnir's life becomes weaker and weaker. Until the end, he had completely lost his breath and died completely. Using his life to block Ai Li's blow was Odin's plan. At the same time, Odin rushed to the other side of Ai Li. Then he stood next to the doorpost of Soul Castle. The communication with divine power could only last for a moment. As the God King, Odin took over the existence of Soul Castle. You have no fighting spirit, you are shrinking, Hong. After Ai Li solved Sleipnir, he looked at Odin and said something, and at the same time, he hit Odin with a Qigong wave from his hand. I originally thought that the other party was going to have a good fight with me. But he didn't expect that he was so humble and didn't even have the heart to fight. Snort. Odin ignored Ai Li's taunts at all. Fight you. He still doesn't know Ai Li's current strength and how to fight. Keeping Asgard and keeping Soul Castle is the most important thing. Seeing Ai Li's attack coming, Odin hurriedly held the eternal spear and transferred the power of the Soul Castle to his body. Then he blocked Ai Li's blow with all his strength. As long as you block it, he can leave here. Puff. The moment Odin's defense came into contact with Ai Li's attack, he felt a strong pressure all over his body. Huge amounts of power caused the rice to fly out as soon as he touched it. I almost lost my hand with the eternal gun. After a mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth, he didn't have time to say harsh words. With a look of disbelief and fear in his eyes, he turned around and ran away. Bifrost's power directly enveloped his body, and then the Soul Castle disappeared. Odin was also picked up by Bifrost and escaped from the earth. Looking at the place where Bifrost disappeared, Ai Li did not pursue him, but had a sarcastic smile on his lips. God King Odin just ran away. Compared with his grandfather Bu Li, there is really a huge gap. Or maybe Bree was determined to die, but Odin wasn't ready yet. But it doesn't matter, just run away. Ai Li has already memorized the opponent's chi. It is not difficult to find Asgard and you can go there at any time. Not to mention that Bu Li also gave him a small gift. I must go to Asgard for this gift. He turned around and fell downwards. After flying to the roof of the Stark building, all the momentum and pressure disappeared. Phew, it feels much better. Tony and the others felt relaxed, and they breathed a sigh of relief. The previous pressure has been weighing on them, and they have not been able to take a good breath for such a long time. This feeling is really uncomfortable. Now that the pressure has dissipated. Not to mention, I feel more comfortable than before. It's like a person who has lived with a heavy weight for a month and feels more comfortable after taking it off than before. The whole New York was relieved, and all the citizens breathed a sigh of relief. Are you okay? When Wanda saw Ai Li falling, she couldn't help but ask worriedly. Although he seems to be fine at all, it is not impossible that he may have some internal injuries after fighting for such a long time. It's okay. Ai Li shook his head casually. The next second, a figure rushed into Ai Li's arms. Subconsciously hugging, Ai Li smiled after feeling the other person's worry, and hugged him in his arms instead. Odin's escape this time may cause trouble in the future. This matter still needs to be dealt with, Ai Li. At this time, Jin Bin came over and stood in front and reminded. I know. Ai Li nodded. Asgard's problem must be solved. An old dog that is going crazy, you never know what the other person will do. But you don't have to worry. I'm also prepared, and my subordinates, training is on the right track. Although I can't participate in your battle, I have no problem dealing with the ordinary Aesir gods. Young ones. Oh, Jin Bin's subordinates totaled more than 180 people. At the moment, they all stood in the air and used Wukong Jutsu to level up, and when they heard Jin Bin's voice, they responded at the same time. Then the chi on their bodies was instantly revealed. One by one, they suppressed their blushes and exerted themselves with all their strength. Ai Li unexpectedly felt that he has pretty good strength. Their current combat effectiveness. I'm afraid it's somewhat similar to when Goku participated in the number 1 martial arts tournament in the world when he was a child, and came Sen and pretended to be Cheng Long. The improvement speed is quite fast. It seems that it is not only the medicinal bath that contributes to it, but also the ability of this group of people is very good. It's okay, Dad. You've done a good job in training. Have they also begun to be exposed to Saiyan training methods? Ai Li also handed over the Saiyan training method to Jinbi. This is the training direction for the next level 1. When the subordinates heard this practice, they were all very excited. They know that the Saiyan training method is the training method of Ai Li. Now his strength is so powerful, if they practice. Jin Bin smiled awkwardly and then spoke. Though Hell's Kitchen doesn't support idlers. But your cultivation method is really difficult to get started, especially the absorbing and bright Brutz wave. Even now, no one, including me, can feel it. Don't rush this, just do it bit by bit. Ai didn't rush after hearing this. Hey, blues waves are not that easy to find. This is the most difficult step. Using Brutz waves to strengthen the physical body and promote the birth of S cells, this is the foundation of Saiyans. The more basic it is, the more difficult it is. If it were so easy, anyone could become a Saiyan. The surrounding subordinates suddenly realized when they heard this. It turns out that they have been asked to absorb the moonlight and feel the moonlight because the premise of Saiyan cultivation is this. They still find it baffling. I see. In this case, they decided to start tonight. No more sleep, let's bask in the moonlight every day. Even if I'm terribly sleepy, I have to sleep directly outside and be illuminated by the moonlight. What are you going to do next? Suddenly, a dazzling golden crack appeared around them, and the portal emerged as it kept rotating. Everyone didn't know this trick, so they subconsciously defended themselves and were careful. Only a few people who had seen this portal did not react and knew who it was. Ancient One walked out of it and asked Ai, let's rest for a while. I've experienced a lot from this battle. It's time to absorb my own insights. Ai replied, every battle brings her some ideas, and this time is no exception. My control over divine power is still too rough and needs to be improved. Okay, then I should go back. Ancient One nodded and turned to leave. Wait, Ai suddenly stopped her. Zero. How? You see New York has become like this, why don't you do your part? Ancient One looked at Ai blankly, then looked suspicious. You don't know time magic. Or do you mean you don't have a time gem and can't use it? Without the time gem itself, Ancient One's control over time magic is definitely not enough. It is not yet possible to directly control time. But she thinks Ai can do it. This is difficult, you still have to rely on your time gem. Ai did not lie, he directly stated that he was not good at it. With strange doubts, Ancient One did not refuse, walked to the edge of the top of the building, stood on the high platform, and began to use magic power. Ai really didn't lie to her. His current time magic attainments are indeed very profound. But the direction is different from Ancient One. Ancient One takes the form of devoting the whole person into time, experiencing it within the timeline, predicting the future, and searching for the past. This is also how most people use time gem now, or the ability of some witches to predict the future. What Ai takes is the real control of time. He can reverse time, go backwards, and make all time go backwards. Ancient One took the third perspective and became a bystander. Ai himself becomes the protagonist, and time is the supporting role, revolving around his thoughts. For example, within 3 minutes, a strong person destroyed everything on Earth, and the entire Earth exploded. All the Ancient One can do is reverse time, and then try her best to restore the Earth to before the explosion, but she cannot control the dead souls, and the Earth becomes a dead thing. And Ai stamped his foot, and the entire Earth went backwards for 3 minutes, and all living creatures were resurrected, as if nothing had happened. Restart time. The most powerful point about Ai's time control is that he doesn't have enough control over time rules now. If he has enough control over time rules, he can make the time of the entire universe direct at will. Fall back. The Ancient One controls the Eye of Agamotto, and the green time energy spreads. The whole of New York is wrapped in it. Then everything started to flow backwards. The rubble of the house has returned, and the building has returned to the way it looked before it fell. The car returns to its previous position. The typewriter in the office slowly returned the paper, and everything returned to this. I'm starving, let's go have a meal first. After such a long battle, although Ai has entered the stage of Saiyan God. But he still couldn't help but eat. This was a normal need. When talking about it, and Ai doesn't want to give up the need to taste delicious food. I want Chinese food. Gwen was the first to shout. The only Chinese restaurants in New York are in Chinatown, right? But now, Tony said with a frown. I do know a good Chinese restaurant. I went there once when I was on a mission. Natasha Romanoff finally intervened and stood up to make a suggestion. Ai took another look at the other person. It seemed like it was the first time for him to meet Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow. Not to mention, it's really sexy. Beautiful too. It's a pity that she has been trained since she was a child, even her uterus was removed, and she lost the foundation of a woman. This is also the knot in Natasha Romanoff's heart. Forget it, I'll go get some Chinese food myself. Ai smiled. Let's gather at the villa, the magician is coming too. After finishing speaking, the person disappeared on the spot. Chapter 100. The middle finger from the Ancient One, the White House was destroyed. Advertise here. The group arrived at Ai's villa. The Ancient One's portal is particularly convenient, you just need to pass it directly. Tony looked at the portal tremblingly as he walked by, feeling really uneasy. This thing looks extremely unstable. Why, are you interested in magic? Ancient One saw his posture and thought he was curious, so he asked. A little bit, interesting magic. Tony nodded and continued. But this thing is too unstable. The transmission of space is only supported by your so-called magic power. Aren't you afraid that when the teleportation is to normal, it will suddenly be unstable and interrupted, and then be cut apart? If something goes wrong with such a portal, I'm afraid it will be shattered to pieces or cut in half, right? Compared to Ai's teleportation, it's still a little bit behind. Nodding and commenting, Tony touched his chin and talked about his understanding of this portal. On the side, Wang and Modu trembled when they heard his words. Being cut open, shattered to pieces. They had never thought of such a thing before. Then I thought about it, and it was horrifying. Hee hee. After hearing this, the Ancient One gave up his plan to accept Tony Stark into the holy place. After sneering, he pointed a finger at Tony. This action made Tony startled. This female magician who looks a bit older than me is quite casual. No, it's quite trendy. The Ancient One magician is over 500 years old this year. When Wang walked past Tony, he suddenly couldn't help but mention it. She is very vindictive. Big magician. Ha ha. Loki followed behind and couldn't help but smile when he heard this. He is a magician, and the other person looks like that. The time magic just now was indeed powerful, but in his opinion, it was with the help of time gem. That's it, King. Ancient One suddenly looked at Wang, then said, 550, and then looked at Loki. He smiled slightly, looking extremely peaceful. Ah, grudge. I didn't see it, Tony said casually when he saw this smile. It was not what he said. Wang, on the other hand, shuddered and had a bad premonition. Modu quietly moved his steps and moved away a little. The next second, a portal instantly appeared at the feet of Wang and Loki. Ah, FK. The two of them fell down one after another. Loki only had time to yell, FK, before he started shouting along with the king. 5 seconds later, about 5 meters directly above the portal at their feet. Once again, a portal appeared, and then their figures fell out of here. Before he could stop, he entered the portal below again. Repeatedly without stopping. Accept the punishment well, Wang, you have been very arrogant recently. The Ancient One's voice sounded, and he casually sat on the sofa in the villa, picking up a cup of tea that the maid had just arrived. Listening to Ancient One's words, Mordu nodded. Recently, Wang has become obsessed with some modern performances, and the singer also likes them very much. What about Mei? What about Na? What about Jay Cho? Wearing headphones every day and singing a few lines from time to time, the cries of ghosts and howls of wolves made him unhappy. Wang actually dares to say bad things in front of the Ancient One now. You've offended the magician and you still want to leave. So brave. Tony's eyes widened as he looked at the two guys falling faster and faster. Is the vacuum mode turned on at the moment of teleportation? Otherwise, why is the speed getting faster? But if there is a vacuum, how did these two people survive? The world of magic. Do not know. Gwen and Wanda started making arrangements after running around. Although there are maids, when the two of them live here, they always feel like outsiders or guests and they are the masters. What kind of tea, wine, snacks, etc. should be put away? I also saw that the seating position was not good, so I moved a few more sofas. Finally, I looked at Peter Parker feeling helpless. Then forget it, I'll just stand. Peter Parker said helplessly, trying to ease the embarrassment of not having a suitable sofa for him to sit on. I understand you. Banner stood aside and patted his thigh to express understanding. Hee hee. Peter Parker smiled stupidly and touched his head. Fine. Wanda's eyes lit up, and she ran to the guest bedroom on the first floor. The use of magic allowed her to take out the big bed inside and place it in the living room to signal Peter. After trying it, it didn't collapse. Peter Parker sat down firmly and satisfactorily. Quicksilver looked around, then moved forward and leaned directly on the bed. He really couldn't find a suitable position among those present. It's better to get familiar with Parker. Tony was more straightforward and casual. He sat down directly on the single sofa. Press the electric button, the footrest of the sofa rises, and the whole person changes from a sitting position to a lying position. Nick Fury and Natasha Romanoff, who came in last, looked around awkwardly, seemingly unprepared for what they had done. After struggling for a while, I silently walked to the water bar counter and sat on a bar lift seat. After Gwen prepared her things, she also found a single sofa to sit down on. Wanda sat on the arm of her sofa. The group of people has almost arrived, waiting for Eileen's return. Big eyes stared at small eyes, and suddenly the scene was a bit strange. In fact, most of the people here are somewhat familiar with it. With the addition of a few strangers, Nick Fury, Natasha Romanoff, Banner and others, it became strange. How about we play a tense and exciting game of Gwent? Seeing such a scene, Quicksilver asked with hesitation. Come on. Parker slapped himself in the face. 10 people playing Gwent. Does this look like it can be played? How about the Three Kingdoms killing? This time it received unanimous praise. Overseas, Three Kingdoms Kill also has a large audience. In particular, the theme of the Three Kingdoms is very popular. Among the history of flower growers, foreigners are most interested in the Three Kingdoms period. Peter Parker was out of shape and decided to watch the fight. Wanda said she didn't know much about it, so she would just take a look. Ancient One is even less interested. Just making tea and instantly lighting a stick of sandalwood, I stood out from the crowd. His eyes glanced over from time to time. Tony, Gwen, Quicksilver, Nick Fury, Dr. Banner come on stage. Seeing that there are not enough people is not fun. Loki said, hey, a few times, and he already understood the gameplay and sat directly in front of the coffee table. Facing the strange looks from everyone, he couldn't help but smile evilly. How can such a game be without me, the god of trickery? Just wait and see how big I am. I was thinking, you just fell for more than 10 minutes, aren't you dizzy? Tony asked. I'm a little dizzy, but that's not important. Loki replied immediately. Wong couldn't help but move forward and squeeze for a seat. I'm going to make you a cocktail. Natasha Romanoff wisely didn't participate, walked to the bar and started making cocktails. The first round officially begins. Tony got the master and smiled confidently. Gwen and Dr. Banner were loyal ministers, and their eyes were scanning the entire audience. Nick Fury, Wong, and Quicksilver had obtained the anti-thief, with expressions on their faces as if they didn't know anything. And our Loki smiled cunningly. As a traitor, he said that this identity suits him very well. Who else is more suitable to be a traitor than him? Why should I be killed? Are you crazy? If you don't kill the rebels and the rebels don't kill the master, why come here to kill me? 10 minutes later, Loki jumped up and pointed at everyone and asked. Who made you so arrogant that you started fighting the entire audience? Nick Fury said calmly. The rest of the people nodded repeatedly and opened fire everywhere without hesitation. Everyone would think there was something wrong with you. The counter thief won in the end of the first game. In the second game, Loki got the loyal minister, and his expression became positive. I never thought that I, Loki, could also become a loyal minister. 15 minutes later, Paji, Loki threw down his ID tag, turned around and walked silently to the bar. Bring me the strongest vodka. Can you tolerate it? Why don't you try this ergotu? I think the level is quite high. Natasha Romanoff kindly reminded me. Good. Taking the bottle and gulping, Loki raised his head and started filling the bottle. One bottle was not enough, so I picked up another bottle of vodka and started to show off. This game is not suitable for him. Stop playing and eat. Lee appeared here in a flash, then directly tore open the rift in space, and took out things one by one. Tony stood up boredly and glanced at Nick Fury. This guy actually won 3 games, and the last one was a traitor. Sure enough, being an agent makes people uncomfortable. Quite interesting. Wong reluctantly put down his identity card, which made him the Lord. The last person had a one-on-one challenge with Nick Fury, but unfortunately he missed a move. After speaking with some annoyance, I started to think about finding someone to play with when I go back. But you have to take advantage of the fact that the Ancient One magician is not here, otherwise you will definitely be taught a lesson. What did you buy? Compared to them, Gwen doesn't care too much. She's just playing games. She doesn't have any attachments. He ran to Lee and looked at him curiously. Roasted flour duck, roasted goose, roasted chicks, braised salted duck, soy sauce chicken and bacon, pine flour belly, dried meat sausage assorted sourdough plate. As he spoke, he took out something from it and introduced it. Don't get me wrong, it's not that he's talking about the number of words, but he really bought so many. There are also some delicious snacks, including fried rice noodles, stinky tofu, Chinese fried chicken, fried rice with fat intestines, and sweet and savory tofu curd. Hey, what does this smell like? Gwen picked up a box and just opened it. When a smell hit her face, she immediately closed it and pinched her nose. That's snail noodles. Lee glanced at it and replied. What about this? Eggs. Tony looked at the plate of eggs and asked curiously. Is there any need to buy them specially? Are the eggs in Chinese food special? It's half and half, live beads and eggs. Then another dish was placed on the table, all from the 8 famous cuisines, and they were even steaming hot. The aroma hit their faces, making everyone immediately swallow their saliva and want to start. Try the Chinese white wine bar. He took out the drinks again, including erguodu and wuliangye, and I think Maotai is indispensable. I know this, Maotai. It's very famous. Tony pointed and said after seeing Maotai. Has it started? Don't you want to wait for me either? Kingpin pushed the door open and said with a smile, he had just finished solving the gang issues. Today's gangs are no longer gangs. Naturally, the following is still the same as before, controlling industries such as bars and flour, and everyone is indispensable. But the above is completely different, mainly. He was focused on combat effectiveness and didn't care about the gang's problems at all. Jin Bin also recruited several subordinates to take charge of gang affairs, and he practiced every day. A lot of things happened these days, and he was also responsible for wrapping things up. In front of the table, everyone started to move. After Nick Fury hesitated for a while, he decided to speak first. Well, Kingpin, you did it a little too harshly this time, I'm afraid. It's okay. Jin Bin didn't care at all and replied bluntly. What's wrong? Tony took a sip of wine and asked curiously. He had been watching Lee fight for a while and had no idea what was going on outside. It's impossible to watch the news and wait for Lee to show up. It's nothing, I killed a few people. Jin Bing replied casually. Tony nodded and really didn't care. The other person was the boss of Hell's Kitchen and the Underground Emperor of New York. Is it strange that he killed people? And Tony also knows that the other party has become very good recently, and most of the people he kills are bad people. As a result, the public security in New York has improved a lot now. New Yorkers say that Kingpin was the second mayor, and some even proposed that he be the next governor. He stormed into the White House and killed everyone who could speak. Fury suddenly spoke. Puff. Tony spit out a mouthful of wine and looked at the other person blankly. What the hell are you talking about? The rest of the people also looked at Jin Bin with their mouths open. I thought that my son Lee was already very cruel, killing Thor in Asgard. Now Kingpin is even more awesome and rushed to the White House to kill everyone. What about the president? Not that. Tisk. Those guys are full of shit. Who is clean? Kill them to eliminate harm to the people. Jin Bin said disdainfully. This is true. No one refutes it. It's just that it was too sudden, which made them a little uncomfortable. The most important thing is that so many high-level officials died, so they might be in trouble. I couldn't help but cast my eyes on Lee, wanting to see his opinion. Then Tony sighed and shook his head. There are fart opinions. Lee even became popular in a country last time. There is actually another thing this time, that is, I plan to form an alliance. The Avengers are responsible for the Earth's external affairs. Nick Fury opened his mouth and looked at everyone. Those present are definitely high-end combat forces on Earth, especially Lee. And coincidentally, the Ancient One magician is also there. Nick Fury still doesn't know what level the Ancient One is. But looking at the conversation between Lee and him, I guess it should be extremely powerful. I was a little embarrassed thinking about my own trump card, Captain Marvel, and I was not sure how the opponent's strength compared with the two people present. It might not be a guaranteed win, but it's not far off. Speaking of this, I also made a few friends in other galaxies, and then joined forces with a very powerful technological empire in the universe. Xandar, there is a Nova Legion there. The boss calls himself Nova Supreme. His strength is average, but it can be considered a good organization. 2.1. They are considered a space defense force. They signed a trade deal with the Earth at my request. Lee said as he asked JARVIS to release the files. By the way, some pictures of the other party's technology were also displayed. Tony immediately stood up and observed carefully, and couldn't help but be surprised. Many of the weapons here are very advanced. And he also saw several new materials that had not been discovered before. There are others who have thought about it, but there are currently no technological means that have been developed. It's really powerful, Tony couldn't help but said. When Nick Fury saw this scene, he retracted his mouth in embarrassment. Good guy, you said you would create an Earth organization, but you said you would unite the legions in the universe. He originally wanted to take this opportunity to call Captain America over to get acquainted with him, but now it's not appropriate anymore. A few kilometers away, Steve Rogers was sitting in the car quietly waiting for news. She was called by Nick Fury. This is a powerful legion, and its strength is very good, but how to get there? Kingpin frowned. It was impossible to sail for a long time every time to find the other party. After all, the Earth was too far away now. As they continue to improve their technological and high capabilities, I don't know how many years have passed. Don't worry, I've already prepared the structure to stabilize the portal. Lee replied. With this, everyone will no longer worry. It was a very enjoyable meal. Gwen also understood why Lee was so dissatisfied when she had Western food with her last time. This comparison. American food is totally pig food. Damn it, what if I can't eat anymore? After tasting these, she really could no longer accept the monotony of oats soaked in milk for breakfast, hamburgers for lunch, and pizza and steak for dinner. Chapter 101 Gravity House, Galaxy Star Map. Please order your monthly pass. Close black lens bracket. Advertise here. As soon as I entered, everyone was stunned and looked at me dumbfounded. You don't know that several of them are still pretending to criticize me. Without saying anything, I just used a Qigong bomb, causing him to explode and spiral into the sky. The rest of the people are still pretending to be cool, calling me crazy, and saying that they want to eliminate my position and replace me with someone else as the underground emperor of New York. Jin Bing snorted coldly when he said this, with an unhappy look on his face and a look of disdain in his eyes. It was they who gave me this position, but they still want to replace me. Let him change me if I can. Then what? Quicksilver stared at Kingpin with wide eyes, waiting for the follow-up. Click, comma. Peter Parker on the side is also seriously waiting for the follow-up, full of expectations. Then I definitely killed them directly. After a few people died, guess what? Jin Bing smiled, and then waited for everyone's questions in a relaxed manner. What's wrong? Quicksilver said in the most cooperative voice. Then the rest fell to their knees on the ground, begging me not to kill them. Lee has arrived in the basement, followed by Tony. He just smiled at Kingpin's sanctification before the people above. Since he started practicing, his personality has changed a lot. In the past, he was actually a good person, and he was very emotional most of the time. But because of the gang leader, his momentum always suppresses others, making others afraid to say anything. But it's different now. The broadening of his horizons made him completely lose his past thoughts, especially after entering the universe. He even let go of his attitude. JARVIS, connect the data and download the data on the JARVIS. Tony came in and let JARVIS start working. This is the basement of Lee's villa, but JARVIS's duplication is also operating here. Intelligent artificial systems are really easy to use. Moreover, the other party's authority is limited to this basement for research purposes. Therefore, Lee's privacy issues will not be involved. Tony is not stupid enough to do those little tricks, although he is very wary of others. But when Lee's strength exceeds the limit he needs to guard against, then it loses its meaning. Okay, downloading is in progress. The estimated download completion time is 46 hours and 58 beans. How many? Tony was stunned, repeated the time 12 and then asked confusedly. What took so long? The data package is too huge. It contains countless technological principles, technological products, and current star field situation information. I'm speeding up the compression method, but it can only reduce it to a few hours at best. JARVIS answered him, And at the same time, it is developing new compression software and has the fastest download. From this point of view, the technology on Earth is indeed lagging far behind now. You must know that it only took a few minutes to upload this data to the JARVIS. Definitely, part of the reason is also because JARVIS has improved a lot of products. God, did you really work together in the past? Tony turned to look at Lee. There is no way that so much information is ordinary information, otherwise the meaning of bringing it back would be meaningless. Therefore, most of them are products that are countless years ahead of the Earth. The rest may be close, but they are not what the Earth has now. When I say cooperation, they must cooperate. Lee replied. Gudong. Tony was speechless and felt that what he said was right. He didn't care whether it was appropriate or not. He is an Earthling, not someone who maintains law and order in the universe. Improving the Earth's strength and entering the galaxy realm is definitely the most important thing. It seems I'm quite busy. Tony laughed awkwardly. Such a huge database needs to be thoroughly understood. Even this chewing book may not be able to be completed quickly. Don't worry, I've already told Ancient One, and there will be results soon. Tony nodded, then became a little bored. It took so long to download, what should I do next? Suddenly his eyes lit up. Lee, let me show you something good. After saying that, he took the initiative to walk outside. Kingpin was still there explaining what was going on in the White House. To become a leader, in addition to means, personal charm is also very important. Kingpin inherited his father's position and gained the title of gangster. In addition to being able to fight, he relied on his personal charm. The appeal of words is a very important one. Under his interpretation and narration, people can't help but be attracted and listen carefully. Ba bang bang. After clapping his hands a few times, Tony attracted everyone's attention and set off with them. During Lee's absence, it's impossible for Tony to come to his villa to do research. So their destination this time is Tony's villa, which is next door. JARVIS. Arriving in the backyard, under Tony's voice. The grass ground in the back garden slowly opened up, and a passage appeared in front of everyone. After walking in behind, we came to the base where we last developed the spacecraft again. But instead of going directly to the largest space, he turned around and arrived in front of a room. This is an empty place with nothing around. There is only one central hut, which seems to cover an area of about 100 square meters. This is what I developed, the gravity chamber. Tony spoke proudly and then said. Here you can change the gravity around you as you wish, from 1 to 100 times. The main concept is that the effect of atmospheric pressure will affect the body around you. Okay, there's no need to say this. Jin Bin frowned and interrupted his answer. Although he was not good at it, it did not mean that he could understand it. There is so much conceptual knowledge here that it is simply too exaggerated to understand. Has it been tested? Kingpin asked curiously. I have tested it with the armor, but humans haven't entered it yet. Tony said awkwardly, he couldn't get in. He is a developer, but originally he does not have a very strong physique. If he goes in, humans have never gone in. That means, I have used animals, rabbits, rats, tigers. The results of it. Tony didn't say anything, but directly called up a video, and saw that the creature that entered died within a few seconds when the gravity increased from normal to 3 times. And when it reached 10 times, the tiger exploded and disemboweled it. Under 10 times the gravity, you can understand that your 120 kilogram body is pressed by 1,200 kilograms of objects. Besides that, your internal organs and everything will be compressed and fall down. After Lee finished speaking, he looked at Tony. The most important thing is, have you solved the breathing problem? Does it have anything to do with breathing? Natasha Romanoff couldn't help but ask, isn't it just gravity, does it affect breathing? Too heavy to smoke? Kingpin asked. It must be an oxygen problem, right? Peter Parker suddenly spoke up and asked. That's right. Tony nodded and replied. Quicksilver next to him looked at his friend Peter dumbfounded. Did he still understand? Peter Parker is a top student. He received an internship qualification from the largest biological research and development company in high school. Gwen explained. Quicksilver was even more confused. Peter Parker smiled shyly, although his image as a lizard man seemed strangely shy. When gravity reaches it, the oxygen and nitrogen in the air will mix to form nitric oxide and nitrogen dioxide under the condition of 8 normal atmospheres. So if the Earth's gravity were to increase to 10 times the gravity, the Earth's atmosphere would be filled with these toxic gases, the water would be filled with nitrates. Most living things on Earth would die quickly after breathing in these gases. Peter began to explain the reason, causing everyone around him to look at him in surprise. You are very interesting. Are you interested in learning from me? Dr. Banner stared at Peter. There are many people who can say this, but it is obvious that Peter knows more, which makes Banner favor him a little more besides being a lizard man. This is indeed a problem, but I have solved the gravity problem and achieved 100 times gravity. When I fully understand the information I just brought back, there will definitely be information about oxygen under atmospheric pressure. No need to go to such trouble, I'll go in and give it a try first. Lee directly interrupted Tony's research. These are indeed very important. But as it happens, Lee is a person who does not need to breathe oxygen. And the strength of the physical body should be able to support it. Tony's main experiment is 100 times gravity, so he can just go in. If you can't bear it, just tell me. Tony reminded outside as he watched Lee go in. JARVIS, twice the gravity. Tony shouted outside. Inside, Eileen felt the changes around her. There was indeed a little difference. It should be due to the increase in gravity. 10 times directly. Tony hesitated for a moment, and then gave the order, staring at Eileen inside, and he would stop if there was anything wrong with him. Opening it 10 times, Eileen felt a pressure starting to squeeze down all over his body, but it was useless to him. 50 times. Okay. Tony gritted his teeth and turned on 50 times. 100 times. Tony stood outside blankly, watching 50 times still walking around casually inside, and then looked at Eileen around him, with a somewhat shocked look on his face. Others looked at this scene in horror. Because when they saw Eileen with the naked eye, there was no reaction at all, but other things in the room were very wrong. The most obvious one was the air. The air seemed to be suppressed, forming black lines in the room. But Eileen didn't respond at all. Appear 100 times. Eileen inside raised his eyebrows, which was a bit interesting. He actually felt a slightly different power, obviously stronger than before. Although the impact on him was minimal and would not cause any problems at all, if it were magnified, he might be able to sweat here. 1,000 times. Or 5,000 times. What if it is 10,000 times? Eileen not only thought, but if he could do it 10,000 times, it might be effective for him. Corgi. Poof. At this moment, suddenly bursts of smoke appeared in the house and white smoke dispersed. Not surprisingly, this house will not be able to hold on if it continues like this. Tony hurriedly turned off the 100 times gravity, which relieved the pressure. The materials are not good enough now, and the principle is fine, but the instability of the materials makes them unable to withstand it. He helplessly explained to everyone that the material was too crucial. This is not a problem. There should be these things in the database. Eileen replied. The spacecraft jumps through space and has very high requirements for materials. But it was still modified. So there must be content about material improvement, but it's not difficult. It is indeed possible if you have space. You can improve it, but it seems that it is best to train at a pressure of less than 10 times. By the way, let me see if I can help you. Eileen thought of this and directly tore apart the space and found the space gem, which is Tesseract. Squeeze it in front of everyone. The Tesseract turned into a gem directly in his hands. Holding it in his hand and walking into the house, Eileen looked at the trend of divine power around him, and a ray of light flashed around. After more than 10 minutes of changes, the place finally looked different as he thought. I expanded the space to 1 million square kilometers, which is almost very large, so you don't have to worry about only one person entering at a time. Tony was stunned. But if that's the case, how can I give it so much space at the same time? One room used up his material, 1 million square kilometers. Are you kidding? Don't worry, the folding of space is only an internal change. The outside is still the same file size, so your effect on the outside can change the gravity inside. Tony is a little confused. This is not logical. Why is this happening? The space inside expands, the inside. Don't think about it. The function of infinite gems is strange, and it cannot be understood based on your understanding of science. Loki's voice sounded, causing Tony to turn his head and glare. Why are you still here? You are obviously a prisoner, right? Well, Loki was startled, then silently walked to the back without saying a word, reducing his presence. What he said is actually correct. Don't let your imagination be controlled by infinite gems. Infinite gems are the embodiment of the power of the basic rules of the universe. They cannot be understood by your science. Eileen also explained to Tony. He was afraid that Tony would get caught up in the research and become crazy himself. Loki smiled at Tony when he heard this. Did you see that? I was right. After all, we, Loki, have lived for more than 2,000 years, and I really think we don't understand anything. In that case, let's put it aside and look at this. Eileen didn't want to defeat Tony's idea, so he took out the spirit ball from the space. Not the power gem of the cosmic spirit ball, but the star map of the galaxy. Star map display. In an instant, all the locations in the entire universe that had been discovered by the Nova Corps appeared in front of everyone. Countless galaxies are grouped together, and what shines brightly is the existence of civilization. It's so beautiful. Gwen and Wanda couldn't help but sigh when they saw this scene. No more. Gwen asked, why is there no information about the strong ones on Earth? When this group of people come to Earth, we can't let the Ancient One magician greet them, right? We should let the goddess Gaia go out and say hello. There is no way. The Nova Corps did not explore the Earth at all, it was only recorded based on some intelligence. The Nova Corps is composed of multiple novas. These novas are mainly generated through the Nova Force energy, generated by the Super Life Computer World Mint. After reform, the Nova Corps expanded its protection scope to include the entire Andromeda Galaxy. They are also known as the Xandarian Star Corps. Queen Audora holds the supreme leadership of the Legion. Close black lens bracket. The Earth contains a large amount of mineral resources and has not been developed by colonized galaxies, so it has a lot of exploitable demand. Close black lens bracket. To fight. Close black lens bracket. What about Earth? Gwen asked curiously. The leader of the commander, Director Nova Centurion, and has a regiment of Siphon soldiers. Close black lens bracket. There are just so many. As for the strong ones, they can't even find them, so how can they register? Eileen said with a smile. Eileen moved his hand, and the enlarged galaxy slowly fell on the Xandar star, and the introduction here also appeared on it. They also need to be worthy. The countless light spots here are more twinkling and more charming than the stars they see. Approximately 29.2% of the Earth's surface is land composed of continents and islands. The remaining 70.8% is covered by water. Li pulled and quickly found the location of the Earth, but the introduction was much shorter. This is Xandar. The Nova Corps is composed of the Space Militia and Exploration Agency of Xandar. Later, the Legion developed into a force of 500 troops ranging from guards to centurions, including centurions. Earth. It is the third planet from the inside to the outside of the solar system, because the atmosphere is mainly composed of nitrogen and oxygen. Close black lens bracket. Chapter 102. The Strong Man of Multi-Universe. Wanda knocks on the night door. Advertise here. Are there many strong people on Earth? Tony asked curiously. Li didn't answer, he just stayed silent for a few seconds and then changed the topic. In fact, everyone present can still know this information, but Li feels that it is not a good thing for them to know too early. If you are strong enough, you will naturally know their existence. If you don't have enough strength, there will be no benefit in knowing. Seeing his attitude, everyone knew that they shouldn't know, so they kept silent. Loki looked at everyone curiously. What strong person? Are there any strong people on Earth? I wanted to mock him, but looking at Li in front of me. Then he remembered the Ancient One who let himself fall in the portal for more than 10 minutes before. I couldn't help but fell silent. Not to be offended. The star map was handed over to Tony, and several copies will be made and handed over to everyone for memorization. They are not required to memorize all the content, but as long as they are familiar with it. Especially some of the more powerful forces in the universe need to understand this. If you encounter it in the universe, you can also pay a little attention. Each is also very motivated and begins to think of ways to improve their own strength. After Kingpin identified so many unexplored areas, he became even more motivated. I turned around and ran to the headquarters, and then took my boys to train. Their current requirement is to become other existences in the level universe. Generally speaking, the layering in Marvel is very obvious. The surface level can occupy a place on the surface of the planet, and can fight on other planets if its strength reaches it, but it cannot be called a strong person yet. Like the current Iron Man, Natasha Romanoff and the like. Level universe can easily destroy a city or directly defeat a space fleet at will. Captain Marvel, Nick Fury's old sweetheart, is one. Level single universe, the power that can easily destroy a planet. This level is the most complex because it encompasses so many things. Heavenly fathers like Odin are also included in the level single universe. Their normal strength is to easily destroy planets. But the average single universe can only do this, and a powerful one can indeed directly affect the existence of a universe. For example, Bully, the first god king of Asgard, at the end of the battle with Li, the opponent's strength reached the peak of the single universe. At that moment, if Bully walked out of the Soul Castle directly, he would be a powerful person who would affect the entire universe, and his death would definitely attract the attention of all powerful people. Even the multi-dimensional strong men in this universe will take a look. It's a pity that Bully's only remaining soul is in the Soul Castle. He didn't stand up and say anything, and few people know what level his strength has reached. After that comes the legendary multi-universe level. This sector is the legendary boss. The ultimate multi-universe can also affect several parallel universes. The Marvel universe is composed of countless parallel universes, so there are countless heroes below level single universe. But there are a few multi-universe level bosses. After all, not every parallel universe can give birth to a multi-universe level existence. Some powerful multi-universe level bosses are the only ones. There is only one him among countless parallel universes. For example, the physical incarnation of the Marvel multi-universe, Eternity, is one of the most powerful multi-universe levels. His body is the multi-universe, and we can only see his duplication in the multi-universe. Then comes the Almighty Universe level. The Almighty Universe level is already the strongest existence in the Marvel Universe, and the Life Tribunal, the Great Steward of the Marvel Universe, is at this level. The power of the Living Tribunal can affect the entire Marvel Universe. The second most powerful thing is the Exceptional Existence. The giants at this level have transcended the Marvel Universe. The famous Transcendents were at this level before they were weakened. The Transcendents come from the Transcendent realm outside the Marvel Universe. The entire Marvel Universe is as small to the Transcendent realm as a drop of water is to the vast ocean. The strongest. OAA. Because the only one at this level is Marvel's Supreme OAA, who is the strongest being in Marvel and the same as the Supreme God in DC. Recalling these powerful men, Li began to struggle with his own existence. He has only one self in countless universes. Ancient One has already confirmed this. And his power has definitely reached the multi-universe level. When he entered the Super Saiyan God, there is no doubt that his strength has been determined. He hasn't found a way to control the multi-universe yet. Could it be that if the power of Chi is directly transferred to the multi-universe level and affects the entire universe, I can feel the multi-universe? Li has never tried this. Because doing so will definitely attract some attention. For example, Death seems to be somewhat interested in itself, such as sharing eternity in this universe. Regarding Death, Li is currently unsure whether her normal fighting methods will work for her. Mainly because these gods are too eccentric. There is always something wrong, as if it is different from normal existence. What if you are not sure of winning and you stumble when you come into contact with the opponent? Well, I still need to get stronger. At least when I can hit the goddess of death on the ground, I can directly show my strength. Ai thought about her own situation and determined the areas to improve. The progress of Superman has never been delayed. My understanding has made my strength improve all the time. If I continue like this, I will soon reach the peak of Bronze Superman. With the cooperation, the power of the Saiyan God has changed qualitatively. If the strength of Beerus, the god of destruction in Dragon Ball is tentatively set at 10. Super Saiyan God should be around 6. And Angel Weiss's strength definitely surpasses Beerus, reaching 15. And my Super Saiyan God has the strength of Superman, so it should be infinitely close to 10. The remaining little gap is control of divine power. He rubbed his temples in distress. Back to the most basic issue, the control and development of divine power. In fact, this aspect sounds very mysterious, but once you think about it, it becomes easy to understand. It's like what many people understand as cultivating immortals. When you reach the level of Ai Li, you are looking for the power of rule. Like the rule in the vast river, Ai Li's current physical state is similar to what the ancestral witch said. The physical body is powerful and the power is unprecedentedly terrifying. However, his mastery of the power of rules is still in the use stage and he does not fully control the rules, so he cannot be regarded as a perfect Saiyan god. Infinite gems. Quote. 3 gems appeared in front of him, the power gem, the space gem, and the mind gem. The time gem was returned to the Ancient One because he no longer needed it. His control over the flow of time has reached a certain level, and he can only rely on his own understanding if he wants to go further. And the rest, urging the gem to burst out with power, Ai Li's eyes suddenly lit up. Holding the power gem in his hand, blessing his own power, he then picked up the space gem. Ai Li pointed his finger, and the space in front of him shattered, and then began to recover. Under the circulation of each other, Ai Li seemed to have grasped something. Stretching out his right hand, thunder and lightning formed instantly. This came from Thor's power of the thunder and lightning. The thunder and lightning is mixed with a black aura, which is the cursed power from Mephisto. Several forces kept emerging in Ai Li's hands, and then compressed together. With your heaven-defying understanding, you integrated the destructive power of thunder and lightning, the law of cause and effect of curses in the collapse and construction of space, and with the blessing of powerful power, you explored the existence of the power of destruction. You have an epiphany. You understand the method of the god of destruction. The method of the god of destruction, a practice method that is one of the god's control skills. Destruction of a destructible target will completely disappear among all things, and the existence of a thing will be eliminated originally. Destroyed targets go straight from one to complete erasure of snow. Close black lens bracket. Hiss. Ai Li's sudden epiphany made him stand up involuntarily. He finally found the cultivation method of destruction. This was also the cultivation method he had been looking for after practicing the Saiyan method. Even this cultivation method is greater than Superman's cultivation method in Ai Li's eyes. It is indeed the infinite gems, the embodiment of the rule of the Marvel Universe. It is by relying on things that Ai Li can realize the true method of destruction. After all, this concept of destruction, of the god of destruction's law was originally the power of rules. Complete erasure from 1 to 0. The rest is creation. The appearance of destruction is from 1 to 0, and the reason why Angel can surpass the god of destruction is because in addition to destruction, they master the concept of law and creation from 0 to 1. But creation still lacks a medium. Not entangled in the rule of creation, the emergence of destruction is already his most powerful fighting method at the moment. Take this opportunity to improve your strength as much as possible to master destruction skillfully. In the animation, the god of destruction's mastery of the power of destruction has levels. It doesn't mean that you can reach the top if you understand it. There are also different strengths. File size. But according to my understanding, as long as you understand it, progress cannot be slow. Let's retreat for a while. Boom, boom, boom. When Ai Li was thinking about this and preparing to go into retreat to thoroughly study the method of destruction, there was a knock on the door. Ai Li opened the door and looked at the person strangely. What's wrong, Wanda? I want to become more sophisticated. Chapter 103 The Coming of Origin Magic Power. Advertise here. This experience made Gwen dislike it a little. She can almost be said to be the weakest among several people, which is different from what she imagined. I thought I could come in handy, but now. After Ai Li came out, she promised him that she would become his weapon. But now, let alone weapons, he can almost be regarded as the object of Ai Li's protection. Then what's the point of staying here? Is it a burden? A vase. My magic comes from the inherited witch magic. To be honest, it is very strong. Not enough. Ai Li once said that when one day he shows another power, the other party wants to study it. Then now, I want to get stronger. Wanda looked at him seriously and spoke. I know there must be a way, otherwise you wouldn't care about me so much when you first saw me. Ai Li hesitated for a moment, feeling a little embarrassed. At that time, he really wanted to find the origin magic power from Wanda. Then study the opponent's magic power and see if you can make your own magic side stronger. DJ. After experiencing rapid growth during this period, my own strength can almost be said to have exploded, and the speed of advancement is beyond everyone's imagination. Subconsciously, I forgot about the question about origin magic power. Origin magic power, the ancestor of all magic, the oldest independent form of magic, and the earliest primitive light in cosmic cognition and accidental events. The strange, impossible fire of life burning is origin magic power. Origin magic power is neither purely constructive nor destructive, it is not limited by good or evil. The most common function of origin magic power is alter reality. Scarlet Witch can use this ability to easily modify reality, including but not limited to converting matter, modifying cause and effect, creating things out of thin air, distorting space and time, creating duplication, creating latitude, and modifying physics rules and so on. This is Ai Li's understanding of origin magic power, and it is also the most eye-catching ability of the powerful person in the comics. It may also be because the user is Wanda, so it is very popular. There have been many disputes over this. Ai Li has competed with others in her previous life. When origin magic power reaches the top, can she become a super multi-universe entity? He holds an attitude of being unable. Because origin magic power is, to put it bluntly, within the rules in the universe and belongs to a collection of rules. This magic is similar to infinite gems. It is also the embodiment of the rules of the universe. In terms of strength, it can even be said to be equivalent to the power of the infinite gems when gathered together, surpassing the existence of individual gems. But after leaving the multi-universe hierarchy, is his magic still a threat to those beings? Because those beings can already ignore the rules of the universe, they should be more accurately regarded as conceptual products. But there are many people who hate Ai Li, and the reason is very simple. That is, in a few issues of comics, Wanda relied on origin magic power to massacre the entire universe, and even the Life Tribunal and the like were no match for her. Even if Thanos holds the heart of the universe. Ai Li was speechless with such a topic, because those comics were indeed drawn. Very helpless. He really wanted to say that some parallel universe comics were inappropriate. It's like there was an issue of zombie universe, where zombies devoured the entire universe. Is it appropriate? In a few more issues, Wolverine massacres the Tribunal of Life, Dr. Octopus becomes Spider-Man and transcends OAA with force, Hulk transforms into a machine, B-Sent-C, Hulk becomes the strongest in the universe. These are all comics, but they have infinite conflicts with each other. So in this real Marvel universe, Ai Li will not completely believe in the comics he knows. Who can be sure whether the enemy that appears next moment is a normal enemy in the movie universe or in existence in that separate chapter? So far, most of them are in line with the movie universe. At least, Mutant didn't show up. According to the movie universe, origin magic power is more like the family inheritance of the other party. But now Ai Li doesn't feel the powerful and irrepressible origin magic power in the opponent's body, so where does it come from? Mind gem. I know, but what I want to tell you is that this method of making you fishy is risky. If you are not careful, you may not gain great strength, but it may be fatal. Are you still willing? Ai Li informed her anyway, hoping she could think clearly. The Earth is now much stronger than before. The early appearance of the Ancient One magic holy place, the strength of Kingpin and his men. Tony's current armor has also been updated to a new generation, and after receiving the technological information from the Nova Corps, it will definitely be improved a lot. Maybe the nano armor is no longer his most advanced armor. In this case, it doesn't really matter whether Wanda is now the true origin magic power Scarlet Witch. But looking at the other party's strong attitude, Ai Li understood that her persuasion was meaningless. She really wants to become stronger. Okay, let's give it a try. Teleporting with Wanda to the Wadi Rum Valley in Jordan. This place is deserted, and there are no residential areas around it. It is also a large dry valley. What happens here will not affect anyone else at all. Even if Wanda's burst of energy can destroy the Earth, Ai Li can immediately amplify the power and control it. When you don't need it, go back in time and restore your villa to normal. Coincidentally, when Ai Li arrived here, a group of people were filming a movie here, and they were confused. Ai Li took a look. Well, the Martian. Then I communicated with the other party and asked him to leave first. Originally the other party wanted to refuse, but someone recognized Ai Li's identity and immediately said there was no problem at all. Matt Damon came up to him with a shy face and asked if he could take a photo with him. This scene made Wanda stunned for a long time. Matt Damon is a famous Hollywood star. Countless people wanted to take photos with him, but he took the initiative to find Ai Li. The director of the other party asked me if he could help me contact you. Is there any opportunity to take them to a real alien planet for filming in the future, preferably Mars? After Wanda chatted with the other party for a while, she came back and asked depressedly. Because the other party liked her appearance and wanted her to make a movie, but Wanda was not interested at all. Maybe we can collaborate and shoot an ancestor, Ai Li said with some curiosity. Ancestor. Wanda was a little confused as to what kind of role this was. The little farce was forgotten for a while. After Ai Li used the space gem to block it for 4 weeks, it was determined that no one could enter here. Then he took out the mind gem. The moment it appeared, Wanda looked at the gem curiously. She didn't know why, but she had the urge to try to hold the other person. Mind gem can amplify the desire in your heart. You want to become stronger, so it shows you a more powerful existence. To be honest, this is a very strange ability of Mind Gem, because in most cases it only amplifies the thoughts in your heart and does not really make you invincible. In the eyes of others, you are still the same you, it's just that you think you are stronger. In other words, it's just that your heart has become stronger. But what I want to do is use the Mind Gem to find a way to make you stronger. This is what Ai Li finds strange. Mind Gem can read, manipulate, modify, create, and protect the spirit of life. It also enhances the user's mental strength and psychic ability. But there is absolutely no way for Wanda to get the origin magic power. So in the movie universe, how does Wanda get the origin magic power through the mind gem? Lee took a step back and looked at Wanda's actions now. When the mind gem appeared, Wanda subconsciously moved closer to the gem. Along with her footsteps, mind gem's yellow energy also became more powerful. The next second, Wanda's spiritual body was instantly ejected from her physical body. A strong attraction took her away from where she was, and her soul seemed to be pulled by something to fly towards space. The existence of the space gem blocks the opponent's trajectory, making Wanda want to leave but unable to leave. Lee saw this scene manipulating space and opened a hole. But after the other party seemed to realize that they couldn't leave, they directly opened a space crack and absorbed Wanda into it. Lee stretched out his hand and locked the surrounding area. After ensuring the safety of Wanda's body and mind gem, he followed directly. The next second, the two people appeared in a strange space. A not very big dimensional space with no air in it but overflowing with energy. The magic power in the environment is almost visible to the naked eye. If a magician practices here, he will definitely laugh to death. After Wanda appeared, a tall humanoid creature appeared in front of her, about 100 meters tall, with a black robe draped over her body. Although the position of the face cannot be seen clearly, it seems that the black robe has the effect of hiding the appearance. But those eyes had a look that could see through everything, as if they were looking in front of them but had already seen things billions of light years away. Welcome, Lee, the strong man of Earth. The other party was not surprised when he saw Lee. He spoke with a calm attitude and friendly behavior. A table appeared in front of him, and the tea was poured. The other party's figure slowly shrank, becoming about the same height as Lee, and then sat on the other side. Chapter 104. Superhero Restriction Order. The Security Council is going to try Lee. Advertise here. Lee glanced at Wanda. The other party was still in a fugue, and countless colors flashed across his eyes. His soul was clearly here, but he seemed to be experiencing some unknown stories. She's fine, I'm giving her the power of inheritance. The other party explained. Are you, Sithorn, god of the underworld? Lee guessed the other party's identity. In the Marvel universe, apart from Wanda, there should be only one Sithorn, the god of the underworld, related to origin magic power. It's me, Sithorn, the god of the underworld, also known as the Great Shadow, the god of black magic, etc. Chthon is one of the many ancient gods and one of the earliest life forms on Earth. He possesses immeasurable magical power, and demons such as Mephisto and Dormammu have borrowed and used his energy. In the setting of the comics, Hades is the first and strongest black magic master on Earth. He is also Scarlet Witch's main source of power. What's interesting is that Gaia, the Earth goddess, and Sithorn are brother and sister. Her ancestors used the Dark Book to borrow my power, and this power became the power of the witch inherited by the other party. It is for this reason that she can connect with me through the mind gem. I understand. Lee quickly understood what the other party meant. The thin bloodline allowed Wanda to originally inherit the magic power, but because of the thinness, she would not directly awaken any origin magic power. Then because of mind gem, Wanda's inner desire to be strong was amplified. At the same time, Sithorn naturally got in touch with her. Then, this is what it is now. There is no inexplicable source of power, everything is a normal process. The only mystery might be why Sithorn wants to help Wanda. If this was put outside, countless people would definitely be confused, and then question whether Sithorn had an ulterior motive. But it's not surprising to Lee. Because these Mephistos like to lend their magic power to others. Sithorn lent it to Dormammu, and to Mephisto. The Emperor Wyshan lent it to the Ancient One and the future Doctor Strange. Even the ordinary magicians in the Magician Holy Place can learn Wyshan Emperor's magic after passing the trial. In addition, there are many latitudes that Mephisto likes like this. Maybe they can get some feedback from it. There is definitely a reason why they like to show their holiness in front of others and think that they can show their power by doing so. The origin magic power obtained by Wanda is undoubtedly very powerful. This is also related to the original strength of the god of the underworld, Sithorn. After all, the opponent is also the 10th and most powerful black magic master who has mastered origin magic power. After a long exchange, Lee left this dimension. Wanda's soul has also returned to her body, and she can now use the origin magic power. What's more interesting is that this magic is not like in the original plot, where Wanda masters it bit by bit and then becomes stronger. After the transaction between Lee and the other party is completed, Sithorn left her a door. During these days, Wanda can freely enter and exit the other party's dimensional space and train her magic in the other party's latitude. The magic there is almost suffocating. After Wanda was sure that there would be no danger, she would never miss this opportunity. You finally answered the phone. I thought you had disappeared or gone to another planet. Just return to Earth and unlock the space lock. Lee received a call from Tony. The other party started asking questions, and then his tone became much more relaxed. The other party's guess was good. He had indeed gone to other dimensions. Mobile phones don't have signals in other places. Not to mention other dimensions, even if he changed planets, the other party would not be able to get through. Put it this way, Nick Fury's pager is quite interesting. Whoever built the signal base station in the universe was able to transmit the signal even though it was a galaxy apart. Mobile M Zone. Putting aside the nonsensical thoughts, Lee was a little curious when listening to the other party's tone. Looks like there's trouble. Not long after the incident in Asgard, there was another trouble. Who dares to touch this brow? Could it be that Thanos himself appears? But the Ancient One is not dead yet. We're in trouble. Sure enough, Tony's serious voice sounded, confirming Eilee's idea. What's wrong? Eilee stood up and sounded serious. What Kingpin did last time attracted attention. Maybe the method was too rough. Tony began to talk about what happened in the past few days. A series of political trends changed extremely quickly. It can be said that these superheroes are not having a good time now. Including the fact that you directly sank Neon Island and destroyed more than half of Banksy country. After these several things were connected in series, the World Security Council now took the lead, and then led people from the United Nations to carry out a series of actions. They introduced a superhero restrictive policy. We are required to accept government management and act in accordance with the government's requirements. The development, process and completion of tasks must be led by the government. Speaking of this, Tony Stark's attitude was also extremely uncomfortable. He just felt as if he had eaten a fly and couldn't bear it. He really didn't expect this approach, but thinking about the politicians on the other side, he thought it was a normal behavior. In fact, it is very common to accept management. Most rising organizations will eventually be incorporated, perhaps by a country or the United Nations. But the problem is that this requirement is too much now. What does it mean that all task development, process and completion must be led by the government? It means that everything they do is under control, and only when the government says it can crack down can they take action. What if interests are immediately mixed in? You know there's a problem but you can't fight. If you fight, it's a violation. Didn't he become their thug? What the hell? Are they crazy? Eilee only thinks this is a joke. If only Tony Stark, Natasha Romanoff and the others were controlled like this. He also thought it was understandable. After all, their strength is still at the surface level. If push comes to shove and a fight breaks out, everyone will be unlucky once the nuclear bomb is used. There are indeed means to control and suppress them. But they just filled up the neon sea and they don't know. Ask for flowers. Do you still dare to play like this? It's mainly the attitude of the people. Tony explained. Most public opinion is not very friendly to you now. If you sink Neon, you will also kill more than 100 million people. In the eyes of normal people, you are just an executioner. At the same time, you are a huge amount of danger. They are afraid that you will kill them at any time. Also, they are also creating public opinion. In addition, they believe that the incident in New York was caused by you. It was your presence that caused the Kurita soldiers to attack the Earth. So they want to judge me. Eilee couldn't help but ask after hearing this. Probably, yes. Shaking his head, Eilee understood. Did he trigger the plot of Superman? A group of Earthlings came to judge the helium aliens. It's just that Superman was an alien at that time, so everyone condemned him from a righteous perspective. And you were originally an Earthling, and the government uses him to be an Earthling. You can't ignore what the Earthlings think of you, right? 0. Then, judge him based on both ethics and justice. If you don't obey, then you will accept the hatred of all mankind on Earth. I obeyed and felt uncomfortable. This is their approach. Eilee feels so childish. Treating Our Lady may be effective. But treat yourself this way. Wrong idea. But if the World Security Council takes the lead and brings all the countries on the planet that can speak out together to come forward. If it were just one country, Eilee would definitely not even pay attention to it. He was imprisoned as soon as possible. Not only him, but also Natasha Romanoff and Hawkeye were imprisoned on the grounds that they were involved in illegal corruption. This is a good time to announce something. Tony said it felt a little weird here. Is Nick Fury corrupt? What about the meeting time? This matter is not even trivial. Eilee's teleportation can go in and out at will. This ability also makes Tony extremely envious. By the way, Dr. Banner happened to be on my side, so he was not taken away. But now my villa is also under control. Jarvis said that there are at least 3 teams near the villa. It saves him the trouble of searching one by one later and gathers the people to announce some things. Eilee asked directly about the black braised egg. If the other party sided with him this time, there would be no need to keep him in the future. When Eilee heard this, she thought it was a fantasy. At the same time, she also understood that there might not only be people from the World Security Council, but also some rats who couldn't help but jump out. Although it's normal, it's easy to be greedy for this position, but the problem is that he doesn't need it. After all, Tony didn't dare to take off casually now. He was afraid that he would be hit by a missile as soon as he took off. What about Nick Fury? Doesn't he have some connections in the Security Council? No reaction at all. In 3 days. I understand. I will arrive as scheduled. After Eilee agreed, he turned around and teleported away from the villa to find Jin Bin. As for Tony being closely monitored. Chapter 105 Captain America's Big Update, Demonizing Steve Rogers. Advertise here. How's it going? Standing in Tony's basement, Eilee asked him. Everything is okay, no problems at all. Tony spoke confidently. People are very confident, but their appearance is not that good. His current image is not very good. He was unshaven and his hair was a mess. There are countless oil stains and stains on the clothes. I held the hamburger in my mouth and wolfed it down. Where is the Playboy look from a few years ago? If he was left outside and told that he was an employee of a roadside car repair shop, no one would raise any suspicion. But the look in his eyes was very clean. It can even be said to be full of wisdom. Because during these days, he was studying science every day. He has been absorbing the scientific and technological content brought back from the Xandar planet, as if an infinite sponge is not full for a day. At this time, Eileen couldn't help but wonder. Does he really have an infinite gems in his mind? Otherwise, how could he be able to absorb it so well? Tony is not himself. Created a kingdom of huge amounts of memory in my own brain. He doesn't have the 677 understanding, but he can still do this, which is really admirable. No wonder it is called the most intelligent being on Earth. Now I have a preliminary understanding of the information over there, but I haven't fully understood it yet. The information you brought back is really too much. I can't even imagine how far Xandar's technology has developed, otherwise how could there be so much content? If the Earth wants to develop normally to their stage, it will probably take more than hundreds of years. The normal development is definitely slow, so we overtook the car in a corner. Eileen said. Don't worry, we have plenty of time, and you don't have to force yourself so much. Tony nodded, feeling that what he said was very reasonable, and then talked about his troubles. That's true, but I don't push myself. If I don't learn with so much knowledge in front of me, I will go crazy. I feel like you're going to go crazy if you continue like this. Seeing that Eileen was still looking at the spaceship in a daze, he couldn't help but ask. By the way, the progress on your star map is also very important. I've definitely started working on it. With JARVIS here, there are so many calculations and offsets to control, which saves me a lot of effort. After Tony finished speaking, the voice of JARVIS sounded immediately. Can I take it that you're complimenting me? Affirmative JARVIS. But I think you're using me like a donkey, my processor is fried. Don't worry, JARVIS. When I finish these things this time, I will make you a new processor. Tony answered affirmatively, so JARVIS fell silent and continued working. Speaking of such a large amount of data, your research still requires calculations, and the amount of calculations is also terrifying. Eileen looked at the other party curiously. Although JARVIS is artificial intelligence, it is also built on the host server. It is impossible to really become a person, and a simple brain can react. Now JARVIS's host server room is at their feet. The terrifying file size is the reason why JARVIS is so smart now. But Tony assigned so many tasks. How did he do it? You promoted him again. That's not true, Tony said awkwardly. I asked him to borrow the server from others. Eileen understood instantly with his evasive eyes. This guy asked JARVIS to become a hacker and use other people's computers as temporary carriers to perform calculations. If this kind of thing were done to ordinary people, they would be immediately arrested. In other words, JARVIS's ability is so strong that no one has discovered it. The star maps you created are so small in region and have no notes. What are you going to do? Tony still doesn't understand Eileen's plan. They obviously have a detailed and huge star map, so interstellar navigation is no problem at all. It makes no sense to create another one like this. It's unnecessary. The detailed version is for us, and this simplified version is for others to see. Eileen smiled. Can others see it? Tony was startled, then remembered the meeting 2 days later, and suddenly understood. Are you trying to put this up for sale? Definitely, I won't give it away in vain. That's true, but will those guys buy it? After all, even the meeting this time was aimed at them, and they would not be willing to cut themselves off if they tasted the benefits. I always feel that Eileen is going to do something unusual this time. Probably not. Thinking about it, it's not impossible. After all, Eileen has always shown a tough attitude. It's none of my business. They will deal with the trouble they caused themselves. Then Tony didn't care anymore, and Eileen wouldn't take it personally. Moreover, the messy restraining orders those guys made him very unhappy. Back to the villa, now only Eileen is left in the villa. No, there's also Gwen. When Eileen came back, Gwen knew it immediately. It was just a 3-step approach and a mid-air turn, and she fell into his arms. A little separation is better than a wedding. One day without seeing each other is like 3 autumns. The relationship between the two was a joy after being separated for a few days. Pierce, I hope you won't cause any trouble this time. In front of the World Security Council round table, several senior Security Council officials were staring at Pierce. This time they took too big a risk. That is Eileen, an existence that can defeat a country. Now we have to judge the other party. It is magical news anywhere. But they still did it because the benefits were so great. If this bill can really be passed, then they will become the strongest in the world in the true sense. At that time, whoever they say has a problem will have a problem, and who dares to object? As for asking Eileen and others to help them, do you suspect there is something wrong? Do not make jokes. They handle all the procedures. Don't worry, as long as he is a human being, it is impossible not to have feelings. No matter how powerful he is still a caring guy. In this case, you can be controlled by us. Alexander Pierce replied affirmatively, and then continued to smile. He is a person who takes care of his family. With this condition in mind, it is impossible for him not to care about the opinions of the humans around him. Face, dignity, and status are all what he wants, and the prerequisite for getting these is to be recognized by the people on Earth. If he doesn't agree, he will become a public enemy of the people on Earth, and it will be more difficult for him to survive in this world. I spent so long preparing so much black material about the other party and constantly creating public opinion. It was just to control him in this aspect. You can just sit back and enjoy your achievements. After Pierce finished speaking to several people on the Security Council, he turned to look at the news that was still playing on the screen. To put it bluntly, they are all real-time interviews. The content of the interview is all about the evaluation of the existence of Ai. All the people who answered did not like Ai, saying that he was too dangerous to the Earth. Say once or twice that someone is suspicious. But countless people said it countless times, playing it in their ears. Then everyone will soon feel that Ai is not a good person. If Ai wants to change people's views and be recognized by the people, she needs to join them. What if the opponent breaks out? Pierce, don't forget the opponent's strength. He's a strong man. The person behind the projection conference asked, if a fight really breaks out, something might happen to everyone. Snort. Pierce wasn't worried at all. Instead, he replied confidently. We have Captain America in the research room of S.H.I.E.L.D. This place should not be S.H.I.E.L.D. now, but Snake and S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury was arrested, Natasha Romanoff and others were detained. The person in charge now is the Minister of the World Security Council. Former S.H.I.E.L.D. Director, Alexander Pierce. There was a tough look on the other person's face, and he was shirtless waiting for the subsequent changes. At the same time, a glass wall in front of me slowly became transparent. After this liquid fell to the ground, it actually thought it was a conscious creature. The government found him, hoping that he could be the presence to curb Ai. Finally, it stuck directly to his skin and covered his whole body. And he is everyone's hope. As time passed, Steve saw a glass window open, and then black liquid slowly flowed into it. Then he moved slowly and approached Steve, along with his signal 5.2. It's not over yet. After signing his name on the confidentiality agreement, he was brought here. The researcher nodded and pressed a button. He lingered for a few seconds and looked at Steve's position. But until now, he still doesn't know what will happen. He only knows that the American people now need him to become stronger. He has been injected with genetic medicine before and is no stranger to this kind of research experiment. In this regard, Steve Rogers did not refuse. Captain America Steve Rogers appears in it. Chapter 106 The Conqueror appears and the trial begins. Advertise here. Feeling the touch on his body, Steve felt a little cold. Subconsciously, he wanted to remove these black things. I feel uncomfortable, as if he is raping me right now, and I really don't want to continue. But the eyes of people outside fell on him, which reminded Steve of the reason why he was here. A strong man appeared on the earth. Ai. The opponent's strength is too strong, and even threatens the entire human existence. He first killed more than 100 million humans, and then led to the invasion of New York by aliens. Moreover, the other party was born as a gangster and did not care about the lives of ordinary people at all. Someone must be able to restrain the other party, otherwise mankind will surely be destroyed. After all, no tyrant can treat his people well. Ai may be this tyrant. So, Steve Rogers accepted this experiment. According to the World Security Council, this thing is called a symbiote. After integrating, your strength will increase significantly. And the power of development is also very powerful. After devouring other beings, you can increase your own strength. And judging from current research, there is no upper limit. As long as you can integrate successfully and maintain your own sanity, you can become strong enough to suppress this Ai. Don't seek to win the other party, just seek to become your opponent. Just let the other party have concerns when doing things. Time flies. After the black liquid circulated on Steve's body for a long time, it actually began to blend into the inner side of the skin. The feeling of pain appeared instantly, as if there were ants crawling all over my body. Fortunately, Steve's pain tolerance was sufficient, so there was no problem. It felt like it didn't last long. After about 10 minutes, everything was over. Steve walked out of it as if nothing was wrong, the experimental hatch opened, and everyone looked at her cautiously. Don't worry, I'm fine. Steve replied. Then let's experiment and see how your strength changes. Pierce said looking at Steve. No need, I can feel the changes in myself. Steve rejected the experiment proposal because after integrating the symbiote, he could clearly recognize the difference in himself. It's hard to imagine that my physical fitness has improved more than 10 times in all aspects. He felt that he could smash a mountain into pieces in one circle. And if you continue to integrate other things, the power will become stronger. The power of integrate. How many hosts did you have before integrating with me? Otherwise it would bring such a big improvement once it comes to my body. Listening to Steve's suspicion, Pierce smiled slightly from behind. How many hosts? Anyway, since this thing was controlled by Hydra, there have been more than 1,000 hosts. And this symbiote has absorbed the power of more than 1,000 people on Earth, not to mention how many previous hosts there are in the universe. It's time to study this thing. Ai stayed in the house, playing with the space gem. After reaching this stage of strength, Ai's improvement every time is extremely difficult. Even with his incredible understanding, he was still a little distressed. Because he doesn't know how to improve next step to become stronger. Multi-universe. His strength has reached this level. There is no doubt that the simple Super Saiyan God has already stood at the pinnacle of the level single universe. After integrating Superman, it went even further. Coupled with the God of Destruction's law destruction and Angel's time control. The multi-universe level is no secret in Ai's eyes. But what's next? How to improve? Ai has not yet made up his mind and can only focus on the 4 gods and Galactus. We should be able to find ways to improve from these guys. As for the cultivation method, he is still practicing and has never stopped. As for the new cultivation method, if you want to improve, you can only try the power of creation. Destruction is from 1 to 0, creation is from 0 to 1, the concept of something from nothing. I don't have many clues at the moment, so I'll look for it slowly. Ordinary teleportation is not enough, you must strengthen your teleportation ability. It is inconvenient to simply use the existence of chi to move instantly. After all, you need to lock on an object that has chi and is strong enough to identify it. Real teleportation is not like this. Ai holds the space gem in her hand. In an instant, the spirit body left the body, and under the astral projection, his soul held the gem. The power of the space gem was controlled by him, and the magic energy transformed from the gas was activated, and he began to constantly search for the secret of the space gem. The surrounding space slowly collapsed. Then build it again the next second. Ai's figure also left instantly. Standing in front of the Ancient One magician, he said hello with a smile and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already standing in front of Tony, but the other party couldn't see himself in the soul state, and Ai didn't bother him. Flashing, constantly appearing in different locations. At first, Ai was still subconsciously searching for these people. But slowly, he stopped using chi perception. Instead, imagine where you want to go. Your teleportation has found the power of space law based on the space gem. You have an epiphany. You have realized the angel version of teleportation. Close black lens bracket. Angel version of teleportation. It goes beyond ordinary teleportation and is ahead of Kaioshin's teleportation. It can directly reach any planet in the lower realm of the universe and travel back and forth at will. There is no need to find energy and there is no distance limit. Close black lens bracket. Ai's soul instantly stood at the location of Xandar. This was the place where Ronan fought. Now it is empty. Ai looked around, and instead of using chi to perceive, he disappeared again in an instant. When he regained his balance, he was already at home. The soul returns to its body. Ai has a concept for new teleportation. There is no distance limit, and you don't need your own energy to find your destination. If it is a location you have visited before, you can reach it in an instant. But if you have never been there, you need to know the approximate direction of where you want to go, and you also need to know the scene there. Just like Asgard, he has never been there in person until now. But he knows what Asgard looks like, so he can go directly. Definitely, Ai can also use chi to perceive a location and then move there instantly. In terms of restrictions, it is much easier and more convenient than before. Is there another improvement? On the timeline, a figure suddenly appeared. His existence was very special. Timeline is a concept, not a real line. But this person really stood on a line and looked at Ai's figure. Taking a bite of the apple, when Ai's teleportation improved, he appeared here. However, he cannot see the future Ai in the timeline. Even if he traveled to the past, he could not find the other person there. It was as if Ai was originally at a point on this timeline and would not affect the past or future. This existence. He also has the power of time, so I have little influence on him on the timeline. But the Ancient One can also enter time, even the time gem. What is his concept of time? Control time. Kong is not sure about the existence of Ai 883. He has been paying attention to various timelines before, and the operation of the time manager means that he does not need to watch these all the time. When he discovered the special existence of Ai, it was already a step too late. Ai has developed to its current strength. This is a very troublesome thing. Unknown time manipulation. Kong became interested at this moment. Different from his time management, the other person's time seems to be on two different parallel lines with his own. If you can get the other party's control of time. If the delay continues and Ai doesn't show up, what's the point of holding these meetings? The power of gaze to penetrate space can be traced back to Nato's gaze staring at him. What's wrong? Only. Tony spoke hurriedly, but there was no response to the phone notification, so he could only come and look for it in person, knocking on the door for a long time before Ai opened it. In the Earth Villa, Ai was suddenly startled and felt a gaze staring closely at him. Several knocks on the door sounded, and Ai's eyes returned. He didn't see the other party's presence, but he also had some guesses. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, Ai's energy exploded out, and the space in front of him was directly shattered. There are only a few people who can observe themselves within a certain period of time and withdraw immediately. A pair of pupils revealed a blue light, and then transformed into golden pupils unique to Superman. And some of those people have no consciousness in this universe. They will look at themselves when they die, but the other party will not be so secretive. Ai opened the door and asked as Tony appeared. When Ai's eyes stopped, there were only strips of past, future and present left in his eyes. You've been in there for 2 days. The meeting has started, and we are the only one missing. The river of time. Someone is watching me in time. Chapter 107. Who is in favor and who is against? The Earth only needs one voice. Advertise here. Remains of the White House in Washington. This place was originally a very solemn place, but Jin Bin came over a while ago and directly blasted the place with a Qigong wave. As a result, now only ruins remain. Rebuilding is unlikely. Because everyone knows that this place was bombed, and no matter how it is built, it still leaves a face problem. It might be appropriate if the kingpin died. But he did not die. One day he lived, and the ruins of the White House were a slap in the face of their politicians, which they could not resist. At the moment, there are several tables and chairs on the large lawn in front of the site, and the people sitting on them are the representatives of the World Security Council. The 2 rows next to it are the current top officials of each country, all of which are participating in this meeting and have the right to vote. The various shooting equipment of the big guns and cannons ahead are being broadcast live. Synchronize the live broadcast here to every country in the world. Pierce sat above him contentedly. Although his face was serious, the smile slightly raised at the corner of his mouth could not be concealed at all. I chose this place just to put pressure on the other party. Show the world that a kingpin dared to bomb the White House like this. So what else can't they do? Use this method to arouse greater public opinion on the live broadcast, and the Chinese people will suppress the other party. Not to mention there were countless people participating on the big lawn in front. They held various signs in their hands, with different shapes. But the words written on it are very unified. Open black lens bracket boycott superhero, close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket maintain public safety, close black lens bracket. The restriction bill must be passed. Open black lens bracket give the earth a safe home, close black lens bracket. Almost everyone has one of several characters, and everyone is waiting to start. Aren't you here yet? It seems they don't want to show up. If you don't come out, just pass normally. If you don't have the face to come, you don't dare to show up. On the stage, representatives from several countries waited for a long time, but still did not see the appearance of Li, Jin Bin, or even Tony Stark, and they all smiled. If you are not present, then it will be declared passed. If you don't show up, your bill won't be passed and no one will agree with it. Opposite, Gwen, Wanda and others were all sitting here, and Gwen spoke directly. As long as people on Earth agree, then he must agree, or do Li, Jin Bin and others think they are not Earth people? That's right, we represent everyone on Earth. We refuse to acknowledge the existence of Li, Jin Bin and others. They are the hidden dangers of this world. Several people said directly to Gwen and others, with an attitude of disdain to communicate with them. Since you never show up, it will be treated as absent. I declare that this time the superhero restriction bill will pass. Whoosh. When Alexander Pierce, the minister of the World Security Council, watched the time pass and could no longer hold back his words, when he was about to pass. Li appeared on the scene instantly with Tony and Kingpin. The 3 of them stood in the open space, looking at all kinds of people around them. After one glance, he stopped paying attention and walked towards Gwen and others. Are you here? Pierce was startled when he saw Li appear. He was actually here. But the situation is like this, so what if you come? I reject this bill. Superheroes will not be governed by a world government. Tony stayed where he was and bluntly rejected Pierce's decision. The bill this time was held by the people, and each country voted on it. The president of the World Security Council, sitting in the center, explained to several people. The people present represent each country, and the people outside all agree with this bill. Li, Kingpin, Tony, Gwen, Wanda, Nick Fury, Natasha Romanoff, Dr. Banner, I'm sorry to tell you that your refusal is meaningless. You can think that this time, the entire Earth will reject you. If you always disagree, then every country in our country will not recognize your identity. Your decision is to use us as your weapon. Doing so will only lead to more indescribable conflicts of interest. Tony couldn't help but retort, being controlled by them, wouldn't it mean that everyone would have no freedom at all? Not to mention becoming the other party's dog, they will bite whoever they want to bite. The World Security Council guarantees that nothing like this will ever happen. The chairman of the council immediately retorted and then said affirmatively. Our restrictions on you will be supervised by everyone, and we will never abuse our power. And your refusal is meaningless. The bill has been passed. Tony wanted to say it again, but Li stopped him. After all, Tony put himself in a position as an earthling and below the opponent's position. So his rebuttal is meaningless. This is not how we fight against such forces. Li walked to the field, looked directly at the president above, and pointed one hand at him. What are you going to do? Do you mean you are going to do it here? Li Fisk. I am from the World Security Council. Bang. The head exploded, and the Qigong bomb from Li's finger penetrated directly, then he looked at everyone and said. The point of this meeting is not that you held it, but that we decided to agree or disagree. Now I ask again, who is going to pass this bill, who is in favor of it, and who is against it? Li didn't come here for the Roche Act, he came here to do other things. Bill or whatever, this farce should end as soon as possible. Li's action really scared other people. He just took action no matter how hard he said it. This is a dialectical stage. Shouldn't everyone use their words but not their hands? Kume Yalu. Bang. A man stood up and pointed at Li and spoke. As soon as he said a word, Li shot him directly. It's weird. Your country was destroyed by me, but you can still survive and sit here. Who do you represent? The innocent soul of Neon Island. Li was a little surprised. There was actually a neon man here. If he didn't just hide away, how dare he jump out? Li, are you crazy? He is the representative of the neon people who were killed by you. What do you mean by doing this? You want to use force to suppress everyone who disagrees with you. The US spokesman stood up and pointed at Li and shouted. If you do this, no one here will obey you. You will only become a traitor to the people of the earth. Hey, don't talk nonsense, I reject this bill. At this time, the representative of the flower grower suddenly said. I also remain neutral. A representative wearing a large cotton padded jacket and a military turban on his head also expressed his attitude. Suppression by force. Isn't it possible? Ali asked the other party in turn. Tyrant. Tyrant. It's completely fascist. Such people cannot be free. Must be monitored. Protest. Protest. On the periphery, countless people holding signs saw this scene and immediately crowded forward. After pushing to the front, they shouted and reprimanded Ali. It's so noisy. Ali turned his head and glanced. This group of people must have resisted him. Or it's someone I hired. Shouting to judge himself, Ali couldn't even be heard clearly when speaking normally. With his eyes slightly red, Ali looked at the group of people, and then a huge amount of heat burst out from Ali's eyes instantly. Buzzing. Heat vision shot out from Ali's eyes, aiming at this group of people and scanning directly. Powerful energy passes through everyone. In an instant, the whole scene became quiet. Everyone on the stage looked at this scene in confusion. Does this guy really not care about public opinion? Pierce looked at Ali in shock. How could this happen? This was different from what he thought at the beginning. At the same time, in the global live broadcast, those who watched this scene remotely began to get confused. Random massacres, wanton actions. Those who thought they would support Ali at first are now a little shaken. They are not sure whether Ali will be unhappy one day in the future and take action against them. High-definition pictures can be seen by everyone through live broadcast. Ali, you are doing this to treat the Earth as your colony. Pierce was shocked when he saw this scene, but he has not forgotten the point of this bill. At the same time, Tony behind him also started to operate hurriedly. I only have two things to do here. The first thing is that I, Zhao, announce that the Earth has officially entered the galaxy camp. Is this bill correct? In an instant, the projection screen appeared in the sky, and everyone could see the content inside. The vast universe appeared in front of everyone in an instant. They all turned into pictures in the universe. People who have not watched this live broadcast will also find pictures on their TVs, computers, street billboards, and mobile phone screens. Looking at the stage, Ali asked for their answers this time. So, the Earth can only have one voice now. The voices of other camps must be extinguished. Who is in favor and who is against? They must turn Ali and others into their weapons, not their leaders. Starting from today, we will step out of the Earth and officially enter the universe. Portable cutting-edge projection equipment has been installed. It was a galaxy map of huge amounts. The map was filled with the existence of various planets, the situation and camp on each planet, and even their legion representatives. Regardless of entering the universe or not. Chapter 108. Symbiote version of Captain America wants to kill Ali. Advertise here. If you enter the universe, you must have a voice as the commander. Your so-called colony. Alexander Pierce, let me tell you, I will not be this man of one word, but I will never let you live. Are you threatening me? Pierce narrowed his eyes and stared at Ali, then smiled. You don't really think you're invincible, do you? Ali was startled. Hearing what the other party said, does it mean that the other party has a trump card? With this tone and attitude, could it be that there is someone in the other side's camp who is stronger than myself? Who? Steve, it's your turn. Pierce suddenly spoke. At the same time, a figure quickly rushed out from the ruins and attacked Ali directly. Jin Bin, who was beside him, realized something was wrong and immediately stood up and blocked Ali. The powerful force directly collided with Captain America Steve Rogers. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. The collision between the two people even made a sound like a vibrating sound. Surprisingly, the Kingpin took a step back, but Steve didn't move at all. Standing firmly on the spot, staring at Ali. Oh. Ali was a little surprised. At this time, Captain America. Is it an enhanced version? How could it become so strong? Kingpin's strength is not weak. The previous Steve Rogers, 10 of them combined, cannot be Kingpin's opponent. Why now? Jin Bing also looked at him in disbelief. He knew his own strength. How could he throw out a Steve Rogers and knock him back? He had met Steve before, when Nick Fury dug Fang 490 out of the seabed, and met him after he woke up. It's a bit of banker's strength, but that's all. But now it seems. Did this guy take Viagra? Ali, don't be enlightened. Steve stared at Ali and spoke, straightening his back and wearing tight clothes that showed off his perky buttocks. At this moment, he seemed to represent the justice of the world and was condemning Ali. Stand on the side of the people and become a true hero. Ali was stunned for a moment after hearing what the other party said. What is this guy talking about? Do you have a bad mind? Are you brainwashed by them? Ali said to him. Or is it that your brain is damaged after soaking in the sea for too long? Listening to Ali's words, Steve looked ugly. You forced me to do this, Ali, you were supposed to be the hero of Earth. After saying that, Steve came over to Ali. At the same time, black liquid began to flow out of his body, and then completely wrapped his body. The next moment, his body became much larger, and his whole person turned into a symbiosis. It turns out to be a symbiote. Ali knew it instantly when he saw this appearance. With the blessing of the symbiote, that's why the power has increased so much. Is that why you are so confident and want to educate yourself? Can only say, bang, a punch. The confidence on Steve's face instantly turned into shock. Oh, ho, ho. The black symbiote on his body left Steve's body slightly with this punch. The head that appeared alone screamed in pain, and then wanted to return to Steve's body. Steve's whole body flew out directly and hit the ruins of the White House. There was a burst of smoke. Steve was still a little dazed when he crawled out, feeling so much pain all over his body that his bones almost broke. Destroy. Lee points to Steve with one hand. Say the word, destruction, softly in your mouth. The next second, the black symbiote on Steve slowly began to disintegrate. Everything turned into purple particles and then disappeared completely. Steve Rogers was left standing alone, a little dazed and at a loss. A black robe was thrown on Steve's body. Only then did Steve realize that after being pointed at by the other party, not only was the symbiote gone, but even his clothes were clean, he was completely naked. Good body. The clothes belonged to Tony. After he handed the coat back to the other party, he couldn't help but tease him. Steve, who looked ugly, wanted to find a hole to bury himself in at this moment. Many years ago, after joining the army, I became a performing soldier with a lively atmosphere. I found it difficult to bear it from the beginning. But I didn't expect that I would become a laughingstock again today. The most important thing is that now it is a global live broadcast. In other words, at that moment, my embarrassed appearance was instantly clearly seen by people all over the world. An idea of not wanting to live suddenly filled my mind. Some people are dead, but they are still alive. Some people are alive, but they are already dead. Alexander Pierce stayed there. He originally thought that after Steve had the symbiote, he would be strong and there would be no problem. But now, you know nothing about power. To be honest, as Hydra, you bosses can only use your brains. You can't even tell the difference between strength. It's really hard for you. Lee said to Pierce. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone around looked at Alexander Pierce blankly. Hydra, who? Pierce. Isn't he the minister of the World Security Council? He is also the former director of S.H.I.E.L.D. He specializes in dealing with existences like Hydra. How BCDG could he be Hydra? You want to frame me? Pierce immediately retorted. Forget it. Lee originally wanted to kill the other party directly. But when I think about it, it would be nice to leave some information before you die. If the other party wants to suppress you with public opinion, then you should help him and let everyone see what kind of people you are who follow the plan. The power of Mind Gem is channeled instantly. Pierce's head started to feel dizzy the next moment. Are you Hydra? Who else is? I am Hydra. The entire S.H.I.E.L.D. is now a Hydra person. After I got Nick Fury away, S.H.I.E.L.D. became Snake and S.H.I.E.L.D. Pierce's voice sounded slowly, and this paragraph had been broadcast around the world before. Where are the other Hydra leaders? When Pierce woke up and looked around, he found that everyone was staring at him cautiously. At the same time, countless guns were pointed at him, ready to speak at any time. What kind of ship do you want to build? Don't be deceived by him, he just wants to frame me. I am not a Hydra. I think Lee is a Hydra. Don't forget that he is Jin Bin's adopted son. There is nothing wrong with him joining Hydra. Bang! Lee put his hand down and the Qigong bullet penetrated the opponent's forehead. What is there to say to such a person? Why don't we kill him and keep him for the Chinese New Year after we have to explain everything? They pointed guns at each of them and just opened fire to kill them. Is it possible to arrest them and put them in jail alive? Having said the first thing, the second thing is about entering the cosmic era this time. The current technology must be strengthened. This is led by Tony. She has mastered the star map and many cutting-edge technologies. We need to cooperate more in the future. Tony walked up and said to everyone. All the representatives became energetic when they heard about the new technology. Whether to accept Lee or not, there is not much benefit to them. And now that the technology developed by Lee is enough to enter the universe, the benefits are too important. As for these things, let the flower grower take the lead. Lee looked around and finally pointed at the person coming from the flower grower. Why is it him? When the American representatives heard, they asked the flower grower to take the lead. In other words, the other party has become the leader of this scientific and technological research, and the other party will distribute more benefits. How can he still sit still? Why? Lee pretended to think for a second, and then shot the opponent with a Qigong bomb. Why are there still people asking me now? For a moment, everyone was speechless. How could you ask this? If you ask, you will die. They also saw that Lee was not negotiating distribution, but a dictator's distribution. Just because he was the first to vote against, and I am an Asian. The meeting is over and there is nothing left to discuss later. Everyone began to think about the follow-up question in groups of 2s and 3s, and some people even came to Tony's side to start a relationship. Are you interested in coming to our place, going back to have a look, and give a lecture by the way? After Lee was preparing to leave with Gwen, the representative of the flower grower came over, shook hands with him, and then asked. Lee was a little surprised. He gave a speech. What did he talk about? His operation just now killed so many people. I am afraid that in the eyes of many people, he is almost like a devil. I wish I could keep him far away. Why would I let myself give a speech? Those people you killed were no problem to us. The representative of the other party smiled, then finished speaking casually, and moved a little closer. And since you sank on Neon Island last time, countless people in the country now regard you as the biggest hero, and some of them want to erect a monument to you. Hiss. Lee imagined that a stone sculpture looked like her, and then she felt a little weird that she was not dead yet. Sorry, I really can't go. Embarrassingly rejected the other party, Lee also told the reason. If you go to China, this book will get a 404. Chapter 109. Don't mess with the love brain. Jane leads the Dark Elves to invade the Earth. Advertise here. After solving these problems, the Earth has basically stabilized. Kingpin and Tony were responsible for uniting these countries and creating a world government. Those who participate must be obedient, and those who do not participate must solve their own problems by themselves. At the same time, they must act carefully, otherwise they will accidentally offend a certain party and bear the consequences themselves. Li directly became a hands-off shopkeeper. He had no intention of playing any Earth-growing game, he was just doing a favor along the way to speed up the development of Earth's technology. He has more important things to do. Regarding the issue of multi-universe. At his current level of strength, multi-universe is no longer a secret. The multi-universe and timeline here are two different things. The timeline is a parallel world that splits apart when the universe takes an unexpected turn. For example, in the original Marvel movie universe, Peter Parker was supposed to be Spider-Man, but something unexpected happened and he was not bitten by a spider, so he became a scientist. This is the split timeline. Li is also a little confused about the specific and complicated explanation, but he is now thinking about how to enter the concept of multi-universe on his own. Other universes. Let's start with the parallel universe. Li began to study this problem non-stop. The destination of teleportation is decided by oneself based on imagination and the realization of the location. In addition to the problem of space, parallel universes also have the determination of time. Furthermore, what would it look like if time was added to the rules of space? Li was a little unsure, so he started his own experiments. Split space, coupled with changes in time. Li, who controls time, does not have much difficulty with this change. The main problem is to focus on how to find another place in the same space at the moment when the space is torn apart. But another universe in another timeline. First test. Li appeared outside the door. And time in this area went back 1 minute. Failed. Second test. Li appeared on the JARVIS. The time did not change and it still failed. The third time. The fourth time. Every time there is a little progress. Although they are not completely successful, they are one step closer to their goals. And his control over this experiment is getting stronger and stronger. If you continue to try this number of times, perhaps, this time it will be. There are no armors in the mountains, and there are no years of practice. What's more, Li's attempt is extremely exaggerated, and it can't be so easy to succeed. In his perception, the passage of time is extremely exaggerated. Just one try can make a difference in several days. Maybe it takes a month to go back and forth. It took about half a year for the outside world to circulate. The Earth has begun to slowly develop towards the stars. World government. That is to say, the team composed of Tony and others has begun to take people to the universe. When the people who went out for the first time were all sent by various countries, the real superheroes still stayed on the Earth. The reason is simple. That's what they are waiting for Li to show up. Everyone knows that Li is in retreat now, and it is uncertain what he will do specifically, but when he comes out, everyone will go to the universe in person. This is also the request Li left before. Because the universe not only contains benevolent beings, but also enemies. If they go there at will, accidents may happen. Only by waiting for Li to take care of them can they be safe and worry-free. And those people sent by various countries can be regarded as expedition teams one by one. Even if something goes wrong, it will not affect their core. However, just when I thought everything was fine, an accident happened. A female devil appears on the Earth. Why is it said to be a demon? Because as soon as the opponent came out, he started attacking the world government building. In fact, it is the Stark building. The sudden attack made everyone confused, and no one even knew the other person, so she jumped out and said she wanted revenge. And the target of this woman is none other than Li. Subconsciously, everyone thought it was a love debt left by Li. He is so strong that neither Tony nor Jinbing and others are opponents. Where does this crazy woman come from? What does this guy need? Tony repaired his own armor and said with some annoyance. He is not the same person now. During this time, he also began to take the medicinal bath provided by Li, and his physical strength began to become stronger. As for being angry, he didn't learn, but only had a rough understanding. But the most important thing is that his armor has been upgraded. Now it has entered the stage of nano armor, and the weapons have been improved several times, and the power is not comparable to the past. But even so, he is no match for that woman. The opponent's body looks like something similar to the nano armor, but the opponent's body is more like a living being. The black substance constantly surrounds the other party's body, relying on the other party's will to undergo a series of changes. There is no point in hitting the opponent with your own weapons. Even the moment you touch it, it disappears. Not just ordinary laser weapons. Even missiles and even Jin Bin's energy beam are ineffective. Once noticed it will all disappear. The origin is not simple, but he is obviously from Earth, so he should be able to find out. Jin Bing also had a dark face. He had never been so unlucky in any battle against any enemy. He was injured in many places all over his body, including a large piece of damage on his chest. This was caused by the opponent's sudden energy attack. JARVIS, can you compare the identities? Tony asked. Okay sir, we are comparing. Is it a legacy from Neon? Gwen asked speculatively. The Earthlings came for Li, and they denied Hydra in words. The only ones left with hatred are the Neon people, right? It could also be the Stick country. Dr. Banner said. I feel like it's Li's love debt. Tony complained. After speaking, he noticed that Gwen looked at him a little uncertainly. After coughing twice, he began to urge Jarvis. Ask for flowers. The investigation has been successful. After contacting the national database, I found that the compared identity is. Tell me what's useful, Tony said. Jane Foster, American, astrophysicist. According to the investigation, the other party had contact with Thor in New Mexico, and it is suspected that the two became a couple. Thor again. Everyone looked at each other and felt confused. How come everything is controlled by Asgard? And isn't this an Earthling? He can also fall in love with Thor. Now the truth is revealed. No wonder he wants to cause trouble for Lee. He turns out to be his enemy. When Lee killed Thor, didn't he just kill the other person's boyfriend? Are people on Earth so strong? It doesn't make sense. Astrophysicists are not biologists, so they can't inject genes. Dr. Banner couldn't help but speak. Did he also get gamma rays? Don't be kidding, I didn't see any green on him. Tony complained. Zero. Where does the power come from? It's so exaggerated. Jin Bing also felt baffled. We're in trouble. When everyone was confused, Nick Fury pushed the door open and said to everyone. He is now the Minister of Earth's Extraterrestrial Liaison Department of the World Government. Definitely, the agent leader is still mainly responsible for agent training on Earth. As soon as he came out, he looked at everyone seriously. Needless to say, I've seen it. Tony stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window and said towards the storm in the distance. The group of people all walked to the window and looked. A black storm suddenly appeared in the center of New York, which looked like a tornado. But they came very unluckily, these guys. Who is it this time? It's time for us to leave. Gwen and others were also ready to take action. But this time these garbage aliens. These days, two lovers really can't mess with each other. At his feet, a tall alien with a human-like appearance walked out of the hurricane step by step, looking at the surrounding city with an evil smile. Why do I feel that New York is so troubled? Tony sighed and spoke. How long had it passed? He immediately stepped out to start the battle. Following Jin Bin's movements, hundreds of people fighting behind him also surged out in an instant. Then with a wave of his hand, the invasion of New York began. The black particles on his body are constantly surrounding him, as if he is controlling the tornado. And in the center is the figure of Jane Foster, floating in the middle of the tornado. Kingpin smiled. He had fought with the opponent in a one-on-one fight and had indeed suffered a loss. Last time it was the Cheeritons. They ride a variety of single-person combat motorcycles, and many of them are fighter jets that work in pairs, but the styles are somewhat different from those on Earth. Damn, an Earthling wants to fight with an Earthling for an alien boyfriend. What AF king unlucky guy. Tony Stark couldn't help complaining. While surrounding it, there was lightning and thunder inside. At the same time, there are many black alien creatures inside the storm flying outward. For more than half a year, his men have not stopped training. Chapter 110 Black and Jane Foster, Wanda appears. Advertise here. Midgard. Malekith walked to the ground and looked at the prosperity of New York City. He couldn't help but ask. Although it is quite prosperous, there is obviously a lot of turmoil now. Their appearance caused chaos here. Don't worry, as long as you can kill that person, I will give you the things. Jane Foster stood in the storm and said to the other party. Lee is very strong, so she is not sure of killing the opponent. But this alien is also very strong, and can also use it for himself. No matter what, it's great to have an extra helper for free. If the other party really can't do it, then you can do it yourself. Bang! Just as the two were negotiating, a laser shot directly and hit the ground. The two of them looked up and saw Tony flying towards him wearing a steel armor, and the weapons in his hands were also fired one after another. Then I'll show you my sincerity. After Malekith finished speaking, he jumped directly on the spot and rushed to the opposite side. At the same time, countless warriors from the Dark Elves also stepped forward bravely. Fighting directly with Jin Bin and others. Their technology can be said to be very good. Tony had already updated their weapons, but he didn't suppress these guys. Malekith's 683 strength was not weak. He rushed directly towards Tony in midair. With the burst of power, Tony could only dodge left and right and attack at the same time. But he didn't expect that the other party actually had the same power as a super ability, and he could shoot all his rays at the same time. Another group of aliens. After Tony Stark saw Malekith's appearance, he couldn't help but complain. He looks weird, his face is as white as a monkey, and the rest of his face is pitch black. How can any human being look like this? Oh, have aliens been seen on Earth? Malekith rushed to Tony and punched him in the body. Tony took a few steps back, a little surprised at the opponent's position. Last time, a Karita alien came. Aliens like you were destroyed. HMPH. We are different from those Karita legions. Malekith was very angry when he heard the other party comparing himself to the Karitas. We are the noble Dark Elves. Noble. After Tony was knocked back a few steps by a punch, he couldn't help but smile when he heard the other party's words. I've never seen an elf look so ugly. After saying that, the energy cannon in his palm hit Malekith instantly. The powerful fighting power caused the opponent to fall to the ground. That's it. Tony gave the other party a disdainful glance. He thought he was quite powerful. In fact, it's just so-so. With some strength and special fighting methods, in front of his nano battle armor. Not enough. Male is cool. After Malekith fell to the ground, he knew that he seemed to be no match, and shouted with a cold face. Immediately, a strong dark elf who was countless times taller than him came out and attacked Tony directly. Facing this person, Tony felt a little tired. Tony looked at the other party in surprise. He is powerful, but he obeys the command of the person just now. What's the meaning? I am the king of the dark elves. But I rely on wisdom. Malekith smiled. Roar. Bang bang bang. Suddenly, while Malekith was talking, Dr. Banner, the Hulk, rushed out from the side. Without saying a word, he grabbed the opponent and beat him violently. The whole person is like a piece of clothing in his hands, and Dr. Banner is like a dryer. Swing both sides left and right continuously, and keep pulling back and forth. Asshole. The energy overflowing from Malekith's body in anger swept Hulk instantly, and then powerful power spurted out. The huge force caused Hulk to take a step back and stare at him. You were looking for death. After Malekith finished speaking to Hulk, he gathered strength with his hands in front of him, and then a shockwave rushed out instantly. It hit Hulk, and the powerful impact made Hulk take a step back. He wiped his chest with his hand and scattered the dust slightly. He raised his head and looked at Malekith, a little strange. Hulk, it's itchy. He blurted out the words as he took advantage of the situation. These 3 words made Malekith's eyelids jump. He felt something was wrong. Why is there something wrong with this Earthling and the Midgard people I know? The strength of each of these. Waste. Jane Foster's voice sounded, and after floating and standing next to Malekith, she said something disdainfully. What did you say? Malekith couldn't help but became furious after hearing what the other party said. He is a dark elf. Countless years ago when the world fell into darkness, they were the rulers. Now he was scolded in the face by a woman from Earth. This is unbearable. When he turned around, he was ready to curse directly. But I didn't expect that as soon as I set out, I felt something wrong with my body. This is what you do. You said, as long as I kill them, you will take the ether. Malekith did not expect that he would not be injured by this group of Earthlings. Instead, he was seriously injured by this seemingly harmless woman who was obviously very easy to talk to before. Humph, see for yourself. Jane Foster said disdainfully. According to the other party's words, Malekith turned around and looked. Only then did I realize something was wrong. The soldiers he brought with him were all being suppressed and beaten. A large number of Earthlings appeared out of nowhere, and their power was actually very powerful. And these guys can fly. When will people on Earth fly? The Iron Man also killed one of his own tribe, and the Green Giant also grabbed his own tribe and slaughtered them. And the enemies on his technological fighter side are not simple either. Their technological means are completely beyond what they should be. How so? This is not the Earth I know. Based on the fact that you have not entered the universe, your technology cannot be like this. Malekith was confused. If the Earth had such technological strength, how could it still develop within the planet? It has long since entered the cosmic age, and then entered space navigation. It was precisely because he was sure of this that he cooperated with Jane Foster to invade the Earth. Now this. Your intelligence information is too weak. Aliens. Tony Stark flew to the front and stood in the air looking at the 2 people. The Earth now is not the Earth before. They have been updating technology, including weapons and other equipment. For example, some slightly ordinary human warriors will be equipped with powerful weapons. And these people are taking medicinal baths to strengthen their physical bodies. Nowadays, the combat power of the entire Earth is increasing. Except for those who are unwilling to enter the cosmic stage and join the world government, everyone else is changing. In order to be able to adapt to the battle in the universe. The moment they set foot in the universe represents the moment when enemies will appear at any time. So their preparations never stopped. And Malekith and these dark elves are their first battle. Surrender, Jane Foster. Tony looked at the other person, who was also the initiator of this farce. Suddenly, countless people began to gather around. Kingpin, Gwen, Dr. Banner, Natasha Romanoff with an electric whip, Hawkeye with a special bow and explosive bombs. Even Nick Fury was holding an elongated firearm about 1.5 meters long, focusing his energy on Jane. At this moment, she was like a turtle in an urn. Humph, you will never understand the gap between you and me. Jane Foster looked at everyone but was not afraid at all. Instead, she sneered and pinched casually. Malekith's body began to slowly disintegrate, and would eventually turn into powder. Be careful with this crazy woman, she has ether particles on her hands. At the end, Malekith wanted to remind everyone that after all, he was killed by Jane Foster. But before he finished speaking, he was completely turned into ashes. It's your turn next. Jane Foster looked at everyone. Be careful, something's wrong. Tony frowned at the other party's method. This was unlike any attack they knew. Jarvis, what can you detect? I'm sorry, I can't feel any energy fluctuations, as if she eliminated Malekith from existence. That is to say, watch out, Tony. Natasha Romanoff's reminder shocked Tony. Looking up, he saw Jane Foster already standing in front of him. Subconsciously, he wanted to escape backward 0.3. But for some reason, his nano armor slowly dissipated. His body was exposed to the air. Put it down, him. Hulk looked at Tony and felt something was wrong, and quickly jumped in front of Jane. But before he could hit the opponent, Jane looked back at him, and a black shadow with a strange light touched Hulk. His body turned into a ribbon and fell to the ground so lightly. Gwen hurriedly caught the unarmored Tony with cobweb, and then pulled it aside. There's something really wrong with this guy. Gwen was careful to be wary of Jane. This attack method was unheard of. Bang! Nick Fury doesn't talk much. He raises his hand and fires an energy cannon at the opponent instantly. But surprisingly, the moment the energy cannon touched Jane, it turned into a small firework. Several firelights exploded, but the file size was only as big as a palm. Let Lee come out. You people are not qualified. Jane Foster looked at the crowd and said, I'm sorry, Lee doesn't have time. I'll receive you. At this moment, a fiery red circle appeared in the air, and Wanda, dressed in red, walked out of it and looked at Jane Foster casually.